Time is 9:03 a.m., June 13th, year 2020-25. We are recording.
My name is Tanisha Terrazas, Texas CSR number 12061. I will be administering the oath and reporting the deposition by oral stenography from Corpus Christi, Nueces County, Texas. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down and counseling may begin.
Good morning. My name is Doug Allison.
Good morning.
And would you state your name for the record, please?
Heather Hurlbert.
And Ms. Hurlbert, go ahead and tell us where you are working today.
For the City of Corpus Christi.
And what is your job today for the City of Corpus Christi?
I'm one of the Assistant City Managers.
I know there are multiple assistant city managers. Do you have an area or of the city that you are assistant city manager for?
Yes, currently under my purview is budget, finance, economic development, and parks and recreation.
And very generally, do you understand today that we're here in connection with a lawsuit that is complaining about a specific ordinance that was a award of $2 million to a particular company?
Yes.
Before we get into the details of that, do you understand the nature of your oath?
Yes.
And you understand that there's a stenographer here and a video here so that everything that's in the room and happening, every word spoken is being recorded?
Yes.
Have you been deposed before?
No.
I'll tell you right now, if you want to take a break, I usually say let's take a break about each hour.
Sure.
But we can maybe a little longer, a little bit less.
Sure.
But if you want a break, I don't have any problem you asking for a break, okay? I will say though, and I follow this rule if it's okay with you, and that is the purpose of the break is to take a break. And I'm not saying you would do this. It's not to run over and figure out what you're supposed to say.
Sure.
So whatever question or line of questioning we're on, we'll probably finish if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Okay. Before we get into your work you've done here at the city and the specifics of this lawsuit, I do want to go back and get some background on you. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Bernie High School.
And what year did you graduate?
1988.
Did you go to college after that?
Yes.
And where did you go to college?
I graduated from UTSA.
And what year was that?
1994.
94?
Mm-hmm.
And after that, did you go for any additional formal education?
No.
And what was your area of focus or major?
Business administration with an accounting, focus in accounting.
Are you a CPA?
I am.
We both know that's certified public accountant.
Exactly.
When did you, is that a license?
Yes.
And when did you get your CPA license?
I believe it's in 96.
I think you just told me you did not do any other additional formal education.
No.
Correct?
That is correct.
We had a double negative in there. Sometimes I'll fix those. Did you do any additional coursework, seminars, anything that led to your CPA license?
No.
You just took the test?
Yes.
And I don't know, I'm not trying to have you give an answer maybe that gives 20 people, but will you give me the thumbnail sketch, or 20 employers, will you give me the thumbnail sketch from 1996 to when you started with the city?
Sure. So my first professional job was with Tower Life Insurance in San Antonio. I was a staff accountant for them. And then I left there, worked for a restaurant as a restaurant manager, remembered why I got my degree, and then I went out of the restaurant business and back into, where did I work next? Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union. I'm trying to remember. I was there for a while. I left Randolph Brooks and worked for Arthur Anderson as an auditor. I left Arthur Anderson and worked for Simpson Race Products as their retail controller. Left Randolph Brooks, worked for Taco Cabana as their financial reporting and budgeting manager. Left Taco Cabana and worked for a private CPA firm. And then from there, I left there, went to work for the city of San Marcos, and then left San Marcos to come here to Corpus Christi.
And I think I got the list pretty good there. After you got your CPA license in 1996, which one of these would have been your first job?
The Tower Life Insurance. And actually I did not have my license at the time that I started working for Tower Life Insurance. I had graduated, but I had not gotten my degree yet. I had not gotten my license yet.
And then I heard the restaurant manager, and then it sounds like you went to work for a credit union? Said yes?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union.
I do that for her. I knew what you meant.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what was the name of that credit union?
Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union.
And what did you do for Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union?
I was one of their staff accountants, and then I think I was then promoted up to accounting manager.
And after that, I think you said you went to Arthur Andersen?
Yes, I was an auditor for Arthur Andersen.
When you say auditor, I think probably I know what that means, but tell me what that job was.
I was a financial auditor, so we went to various companies that contracted with Arthur Andersen to do their audits, their financial audits, and so I was one of the staff auditors.
Would that include some, what I'm going to call compliance auditing?
Yes.
And when you're auditing for compliance, are you making sure, I guess, first of all, that they're probably following generally accepted accounting procedures?
Accounting principles, yes.
Sorry, GAAP?
Yes.
And when you're doing compliance, is there a component of that that also makes sure that there is legal compliance?
Less legal compliance. We wouldn't necessarily audit for legal compliance. We would audit for the accounting compliance.
Okay. And under the umbrella of GAAP or accounting compliance, does that make sure that are you looking at any of their procedures?
There is, yes, you do look at some of their internal procedures, their controls that are in place, yes.
So you are making sure they're following their internal procedures and controls?
That is correct, yes.
That's part of that audit process?
Yes, yeah. To assess risk and look at their internal, to assess risk and look at their internal controls.
Does that sometimes mean that you're actually looking at their policies and procedures to make sure that the way they're doing their accounting for things match up?
Yes.
On my list, the next one I had was Randolph Brooks, but maybe that was earlier.
Yes, that was before Arthur Andersen.
I think maybe I wrote them down the wrong.
That's okay.
It's okay. And then for Taco Cabana, what did you do?
So actually, I left Arthur Andersen and went to work for Simpson Race Products.
I missed that one a minute ago. What's it called?
Simpson Race Products.
And what is that?
They manufacture equipment for NASCAR, for kart, for drag racing. They had 5 retail locations across the United States, and I was their retail controller.
And as comptroller, what did you do?
Oversaw the operations and basically oversaw the operations within the retail stores. General managers reported up to me, looked at their accounting, looked at their financials, that kind of stuff.
Did that involve some of the same type of compliance probably that we talked about with Arthur Andersen?
A little bit. It was less auditing and more of managing the day-to-day reporting, making sure that bank statements are reconciled, making sure that the numbers, everything comes in from the different stores and stuff.
Yeah, and I understand Arthur Andersen, you're coming in after the fact and making sure they comply.
That's right.
And probably for Simpson Race Products, you're overseeing it from a management perspective to make sure they're complying sort of in real time.
That is correct, and then putting the information together that then would be audited. Yeah. So financial statements, that type of stuff.
So on one of those, you're on one side of it, and on the other one, you're the other side of it.
Exactly.
But it's a lot of the same skill set.
Yes.
Okay. And then I think you said you went to work for a private CPA firm?
No, then into Taco Cabana.
Ah, I did have the order wrong, thank you.
That's okay.
And what did you do for Taco Cabana?
I was their financial reporting and budgeting manager.
And what did that mean you did as a practical matter?
So I was over accounts payable, payroll, accounts receivable, financial reporting, cash management. So on the financial reporting side, working on the financial reporting to create those financial reports on a monthly basis, and then we pass them off to our corporate office. In addition, then I also was over the budgeting, so we budgeted for 150 something stores in 3 states, along with the budgeting for the corporate function.
Okay. Again, a large part of that is on the reporting side, financial reporting side. Obviously, it sounds like you're passing those reports up to corporate.
Yes.
But again, that's making sure there's compliance, making sure you're following the procedures, making sure you're following the rules.
That is correct.
Yeah. Then was there a private CPA firm?
Yes, after that.
Who is that?
Steve Bankler was the name of the firm.
And what did you do for that firm?
So where I worked with them doing small business, basically write-up or accounting, and then tax preparation for small businesses.
And then you went to the city of San Marcos?
Yes.
Go ahead and give me, I've gotten some background on you, but I'm going to start putting some time on it now. What
Sure.
year do you think that was?
That I went to San Marcos was 2009,
And how long were you with them?
11 years.
So at about 2020?
Yeah, 2020 is when I started with the city of Corpus Christi.
And what did you do for City of San Marcos?
I was hired in as their assistant director of finance and then was promoted up to the director of finance and CFO.
Obviously, that has a lot of either directly for you or you're overseeing compliance.
Yes.
Is City of San Marcos, is that a home rule city?
Yes.
For example, I'm generally familiar with there being statutes that require strict compliance for procurement. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yes.
For cities, right?
Yes, all cities fall under the state statutes, yes.
Yeah. And would you have oversight of compliance with those legal requirements?
Yes.
You said San Marcos was a home rule? Home rule?
Home rule?
Okay.
It's a City of San Marcos, I assume, would have a city charter.
Yes.
Would you have responsibility in your job for City of San Marcos to make sure that there was compliance insofar as its interaction with the financial part of the city, compliance with the charter?
Yes.
City of San Marcos, is that where you sort of made the jump from going from the private sector to the public sector?
Correct.
And I'm sure you understand the need for heightened scrutiny. Don't get me wrong, it may be your view that you should always have heightened scrutiny. But when you're dealing with public money, there's certainly, some would say there's heightened scrutiny.
Sure.
Yeah. Did the City of San Marcos, it's not an uncommon feature, did they have some sort of a 2-reading rule?
Yes, their charter did require 2 readings of ordinances.
2 readings?
Of ordinances.
I was guessing that they did it like Corpus does and called them ordinances also.
Yes.
In other words, City of San Marcos acts by passing an ordinance, as does the City of Corpus.
For certain things.
I understand, not always, that's one way.
Exactly, depending on the type of item it is, it requires either an ordinance, a resolution, or a motion.
And just in sort of your terms, how you view it, how would you define or describe the two-reading rule?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, if somebody said, what's the two-reading rule? Explain it to me. Go ahead.
Oh, that it has an ordinance has to be considered by City Council twice. Or has to be read twice.
And did the City of San Marcos have a wording in its two-reading rule like does Corpus, where it requires the same ordinance to be read? I'm quoting when I say same.
There could be modifications between the first and second reading as long as it was substantially the same.
Okay, that's the rule for the City of San Marcos, right? Is that what you're telling me?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's your recollection of how they,
That is my recollection,
and
yes.
I'm not trying to hold you down to their exact wording.
Yeah. But yes, that they could change from first to second reading because it was based off the second reading.
They allow that in the City of San Marcos.
Yes.
And we're going to get to it later, but I'm sure you would agree that there needs to be strict compliance with the words that are in the City of Corpus Christi's charter for the two-reading rule.
Yes.
Okay. In other words, from one city to another, the language may vary a little bit. True?
It could, yes.
Yeah. And you're not here trying to testify that the City of Marcos was the same as the City of Corpus Christi in terms of the exact verbiage?
That is correct. I couldn't speak to that.
When you began then with the City of Corpus Christi, that was in 2020,
That's correct.
and what position did you first take here?
This Director of Finance.
And how long were you Director of Finance?
I was Director of Finance for 3 years, about 3 years.
And then what did you become?
And then I was promoted up to Assistant City Manager.
Do you remember the date and year that transition, that change to Assistant City Manager occurred?
It was in May of 23.
Let's go back to your period of time, 2020 through May of 2023, where you were working for City of Corpus Christi and Director of Finance. Do I have it right so far?
Yes.
Tell me what your job responsibilities were.
So it was to oversee the finance department, which included all of the financial reporting, all the cash management, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, procurement, and economic development.
And during that period of time when you were serving as Director of Finance, would you attend City Council meetings?
Yes.
Always? I'm not saying you never missed one, but generally always?
As a general rule, yes. Either I was in chambers or I watched it online.
During that period, and of course, it's part of that period is COVID.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Everything was online.
Yeah. And during that period of time as Director of Finance, would you also participate in executive session?
Yes.
During that period of time, did you have, would you participate in drafting agenda items?
Yes.
During that period of time, would you participate in drafting memos in support of agenda items?
Yes.
As Director of Finance, would it be your responsibility to make sure that you're complying with procurement laws?
Yes.
And you and I both know, but the state of Texas promulgates laws, statutes that define exactly that procurement process, right?
Yes.
And that
Or
would,
aspects of that procurement process, yes.
yeah. During the period of time you were Director of Finance, would you have interaction with the legal department for the city?
Yes.
On what sort of matters?
Multitude of matters.
Anything that came up that probably involved money and the law?
Yes, or
Any issue?
or agenda items, or contracts, or procurement, or like I said, a multitude of things.
What was the practice there as far as what would be the trigger for you as Director of Finance to maybe reach out to legal?
I mean, we worked with legal on a daily basis. I mean, we worked with legal on all of our agenda items. Like I said, all of our contracts, all of our agreements, multitude of things, yeah.
There's a huge interaction between how the money flows and making sure it complies with the law.
Yes.
Okay. Would there be a question, and I'm sure there would be, while you were Director of Finance, where you would say, hey, can we do this action or do something, and is that allowed under the laws of the state of Texas, whether it's procurement or otherwise?
Always.
Yeah. And so you would, like you said, almost daily be in contact with legal. Doesn't mean every day you're wondering if you're running afoul of the law or not, but
no.
but daily you're contacting or working with legal and making sure that you are following the laws of the state of Texas.
If any questions arise, yeah. Exactly.
Pardon?
I said if any questions arise, or I need, if I have any questions, yes.
If you have any questions about legal compliance.
Yes.
We kind of backed into that one with about 3 answers, so I'm going to ask it one time.
Okay.
In your role as Director of Finance for the period of time you were doing that for the city of Corpus Christi, it was your rule to follow that if you had any question about legal compliance with the laws of the state of Texas, then you would contact legal.
Yes.
And you would talk to them on a daily basis, so they were a resource that was immediately available to you.
Yes.
What was your job description once you changed to start doing the job of Assistant City Manager?
So when I moved into the assistant, I mean, it's to oversee various departments. When I moved into the Assistant City Manager role, I was over Parks and Recreation, Economic Development, Airport, IT. I think that's it.
And now you're over different departments,
Some of the, yeah, some of the same, some of the different, yes.
as
Yeah.
you listed earlier.
Yes, exactly.
As of, let's say, December of 2023, you would have been Assistant Manager. For that period through April, the end of April, let's say even May 2024, what specific departments were you over?
Those four that I mentioned, the Economic Development, Parks, Airport, and IT.
Okay. I asked you, and you've described to me your interaction with legal. How would you normally communicate with them?
A variety of ways, whether it was in person, over the phone, or through email.
Okay. During the same period of time, let me back up. During the period of time that you are assistant manager, do you think, you're reaching out by email once a day, 10 times a day, once a week, or you're sending 100 emails a week? How would you just describe it?
It would ebb and flow depending on what I was dealing with them on. So I couldn't, it ebbs and flows.
Are you a big emailer?
Actually, I'm more of in person. A lot of times pick up the phone.
Do you do 10 emails a week, at least?
Oh, to legal specifically?
Sure.
Like I said, it ebbs and flows.
But sometimes.
Yes.
You-
Depending on if we were working on something together, yes.
Okay. During that same period of time, how would you communicate with your city manager?
The same, either through text, email, in person, phone calls.
And would you say you would frequently, during that period of time, be providing information to your city manager?
Yes.
I'm guessing, but you're going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. My guess would be, since you're the city manager and he's the city manager, we're talking about Peter Zanoni, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need a spoken response.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It's okay. I imagine it's pretty hugely important to you to make sure that you provide any important information to your boss.
That is correct.
Yeah. Is it your practice in any way, shape, or form to withhold information from Peter Zanoni when it is relevant to an issue?
No.
Are you the type of employee that if there's an issue and you have some information about it, you're going to make sure you communicate it to your boss?
That is correct.
And is that something that Peter Zanoni insists on?
I don't know if there's an insist, but that you want to make sure that, you always want to make sure your boss is informed.
And I didn't mean it at that time insist in a bad way.
Okay.
You think he expects of you that you're going to make sure you communicate all important information?
Yes.
And keep him informed?
Yes.
That's the way he does business?
Yes.
Okay. And you feel like, not that it's a bad thing, but that he requires that of you as an assistant city manager?
Yes.
Has that always been your experience with Peter Zanoni?
Yes.
When you were assistant city manager, would you still have, for the period of time we're talking about, would you still have frequent contact with legal?
Yes. Yeah.
And would you still have the responsibility of participating in drafting agenda items?
Yes.
And still have the responsibility of drafting memos in support of agenda items?
Yes.
And still have the responsibility of making sure there's compliance with the laws of the state of Texas?
That is correct.
And still make sure you had the, and still had the responsibility of really interaction with multiple departments to make sure all those duties were discharged?
That is correct.
And still follow the rule that if you had any questions about legal compliance, then you would call legal?
Always.
And when any employee in the city of Corpus Christi has a question and they get it over to legal, you would expect legal to help you with an answer, right, as much as they can?
Yeah, I can't speak for all employees, but for me, yes.
Okay, and you think it's fair that you rely on them for what ought to be done legally or not?
That is correct.
In other words, you don't try to be the lawyer?
No.
If
I don't have that after my name, no.
And you mentioned contracts for a moment ago. So, for example, if you had a question about the validity of a contract, then that would be the sort of thing you would contact legal on?
Define validity, I'm not sure what you mean.
Is it valid? Is it enforceable?
Yes,
Was it done correctly?
yeah,
If you had any question like that about a contract and you referred it to legal, you would expect them to tell you if it's valid or enforceable or properly done from a legal standpoint.
that is correct.
You don't play the lawyer.
No,
You rely on legal to give you the answer and then you follow their advice.
that is correct.
That's the structure here.
Yes.
And would you then communicate whatever result, whatever advice you get, legal advice from the legal department of the city, would you communicate that to the city manager? Or would you expect the legal department to do it, or do you usually do it on like a string?
It depends on the situation. We a lot of times are in meetings together with legal, city manager, myself. If it is something that maybe legal was not in the room at, or there was conversations had, yes, that would be communicated.
Okay, and I'm going to break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
While you were assistant city manager, how often would you have meetings, let's say, with the city manager?
Oh, I couldn't speak to that. It just depends. I mean, we do weekly, agenda reviews. We have executive leadership team meetings, and then there's just ad hoc meetings. So,
I mean, do you see Peter Zanoni once a week, once a month?
it's a weird question. I would see him probably daily.
Okay. I mean, if there's important information relating to an issue, then you would be able to communicate it to him daily.
Of course.
And if there was a legal issue, it would either be, it sounds like one way to handle it was maybe it'd be Zanoni and you and legal and maybe some others if they were involved in that issue. Fair enough?
Yes.
Have an in-person meeting.
Yes.
And that would be the way that information would get to Mr. Zanoni.
Yes.
But if for some reason Mr. Zanoni wasn't there, then you'd either make sure that you told him following the practice we talked about earlier, correct?
Yes.
Or maybe there'd be an email string that would be shared with Mr. Zanoni in order to make sure he got that information.
Yes.
But one way or the other, maybe not always on a daily basis, but at least say on a weekly basis, important information relating to any issues are being communicated to Mr. Zanoni.
Yes.
That's the practice here.
Yes.
Okay. And by here, I mean the city.
Yes.
I know you mentioned, and I have great notes, but I'm not seeing it right now. I know you mentioned that you had some interaction or some responsibilities for economic development.
That is correct.
And I think you had that responsibility when you were Director of Finance and Assistant City Manager?
That is correct.
Okay. And did it change when you changed positions, or was it pretty much the same job or interaction with economic development for you in both positions?
When I first moved into the Assistant City Manager, it was the same in the fact that we did not have a director over economic development, so I was the interim director. When we finally placed a director in July of '24, it changed a little bit, but still very much directly involved with that.
Okay. So I'm going to have to figure that out a little bit. Go ahead and tell me what, while you were Director of Finance for the City of Corpus Christi, what was your job with regard to economic development?
So when I first started as the director, economic development was a function under finance. I believe it was in October of 23, 22? I can't remember. There was a separate department of economic development created, but we did not have a director in place for a long period of time. And so while it was a separate department, I was still overseeing that in my role as finance director. And then when I moved into the assistant city manager role, I was still overseeing economic development until we placed a director in June, I think, of 24.
And I understand from what you just said that there were sort of some position changes, but since it didn't get filled until July or June of 2024, sounds like you were doing the same job for that period of time.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so Now that I understand, and I appreciate the explanation, because there's
Sure.
maybe some titles in there at different times.
Exactly.
But as a practical matter, it sounds like from when you began in 2020 until June of 2024, you had the same role with economic development.
In essence, yes.
And tell me what that role was.
Just overseeing the economic development functions. So we have tax increment financing zones, we have the type A, type B sales tax, along with 380 agreements, working
What kind of agreement?
380 agreements. So all those things that fall under the purview of economic development.
Specifically for this same period of time, what was your role when you would oversee the Type B board?
So we were, I was basically the liaison with the with the regional economic development,
REDC?
REDC, or CCREDC. So the Type B board contracts with the Regional Economic Development Corporation to basically manage the Type B function. They're I guess to work with the Type B board to manage their compliance, receive the applications, and present those items to Type B. So I basically was the conduit between the EDC and the city, in essence.
Between EDC and who?
The city?
Including, because we know in that process that between the EDC and the city is Type B board.
Yes.
And so you would follow that whole process?
Yes.
And oversee that whole process?
Yes, in essence, yeah. Bringing the items forward for consideration, and liaison with legal on contracts, that kind of stuff, bringing things to city council for agendas.
By the way, when we say REDC or EDC, we can agree we're always talking about the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation?
Corporation, that is correct.
Okay. Unless we say otherwise.
Exactly.
I knew what you meant.
It's a lot of letters.
So would you get notice when there is an initial application made to the REDC?
Yes.
How does that come to you typically?
Usually just an email.
And usually from whom at the EDC?
Either from Mike Culberson or from Randy Almaguer.
Mike or who?
Randy Almaguer.
And once you receive that notice of a application, what is your process?
That really isn't a process on our side. The EDC handles the application, runs the modeling on it, and then takes...
From what? I'm sorry.
They run the modeling on it if it's something that is looking at return on investment, things like that. So it's just a notification to us.
But I know you have oversight, right? And so you expect them to do those things.
That's what the contract says, yes.
By the contract, you're talking about the contract between the city and the REDC?
No, between the Type B Corporation and the EDC.
Okay. And under that contract, what is required of the EDC once the application is received?
They're to vet the application, review the application, run any type of financial modeling on the application, and then they make a recommendation, or they bring it forward in front of their board for consideration. Their board then either recommends or doesn't recommend for it to move forward to be presented to the Type B board.
Aside from the contract, are there any other policies that the REDC is bound to follow?
Yes, there are policies for the Type B corporation, for the
Okay.
economic development.
Okay. Are they RREDC policies and procedures, or are they Type B policies and procedures?
They're Type B policies and procedures. They're adopted by the Type B board.
But EDC has to follow them.
Yes.
The modeling that you're talking about, what's that called?
Just financial model saying usually it's looking at return on investment, what the economic impact will be for whatever the project is.
I was trying to remember, is it RIMS?
I'm not sure what their software is.
Okay. You may know, we've deposed Mike Culberson. Did you know that?
Yes.
Have you read that deposition?
Yes.
Okay. So are there Type B policies and procedures that EDC is required to follow insofar as determining whether or not a award of money would be an incentive?
I'm not sure what you
Let me
mean.
rephrase it. Yeah. Is one of the requirements that, is there some language that governs REDC and or Type B with regard to making sure that awards of monies are directed to be an incentive for a business to come here?
So there's state statute that guides how Type B monies can be utilized.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, so yes, there are specific state statutes. It used to be subsection B, that's why it's called Type B or 4B. There are state statutes that governs how Type B money can be utilized. Then there is a Type B policy that says, narrowing it even more, saying how the Type B that our board has set their policies.
And I understand there's a statute then from what you just told me, and then that statute is narrowed more by the Type B policies that they follow.
That is correct.
And does some of that language in the Type B policy talk about incentives?
I mean, that's basically what the Type B policy lays out, is that we are able to, provide assistance, I guess you could call it an incentive to businesses for expansion, relocation, if they meet certain criteria.
Yeah. Isn't that the purpose of Type B?
Yes, it's an economic development tool.
Yeah. Yes, an economic development tool, so you're supposed to spend money to incentivize the types of things you just said.
Yes, for growth, yes.
Since you read Culberson's deposition, and I'm referring to page 115, he was asked, and because it's supposed to be, talking about type B, the money is supposed to be for the purpose of giving an incentive to increase economic development, question mark. His answer is, that is correct. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
He was asked, and what we're talking about, this cannibalizing effect is not increasing economic development, and he answered yes. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure what cannibalizing effect you're referring to.
Fair question. It's up earlier in the deposition, actually just on the same page where I started reading. And I'm going to describe it generally and then give you the exact if you want.
Sure.
In his deposition, let me ask if you recall, there being some discussion about cannibalizing, and that is where the example we use sometimes, one restaurant gets built and now the people don't go to a restaurant that was earlier built. You're not increasing any economic benefit to the community, you're just moving people from one restaurant to another.
Sure.
You understand that?
Yes.
And have you heard the word cannibalizing in that context?
Yes.
Okay. And so then applied to the hotel context, that if it's a destination hotel, for example, then that might bring new people to the community, and that is increasing your economics of the city.
Of course.
But if you're just building a new hotel that's going to take from the existing hotels, that would be correctly described as cannibalizing.
I think that would be hard to prove that it would be 100% cannibalizing because of the fact that we do have times in the downtown area that we are at 100% occupancy, so there is a need for additional rooms.
Okay, so sometimes it would not have the effect of cannibalizing if you're at 100% capacity in the city, right? Correct?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
But other times it might not have, it might be cannibalizing.
Possibly.
And you probably know, what percentage of time in Corpus Christi do we have 100% occupancy?
I'm not sure, I don't have that off the top of my head.
And do you know if it's like 1% of a year or
I think it'd be more than that.
Maybe.
Based off of our convention business and some of our big events that we have, yeah.
But you don't know?
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
So you now understand what I mean when I'm using the word cannibalizing, right?
Yes, in this context, yes.
And so Mr. Culberson was asked, and because I read you that one.
Yeah.
Mr. Culberson was asked, and what we're talking about, this cannibalizing effect is not increasing economic development. And he said yes. Do you agree with that?
No, I can't agree with that because I'm not sure what the stats is on the cannibalization.
Okay. Talking about incentive, do you agree that it doesn't make sense to give money to a project that's already committed because they don't need an incentive, they're already here?
That is usually, yes, we use the but-for principle. Would the project happen but for the incentive?
I think your answer then is yes, you agree.
Yes.
Applying the but-for principle.
Yes.
And the but-for principle is, hey, if we don't give this money, are they leaving?
Yes.
And so in that scenario, you would only give to projects that will only come here. They require the money in order to commit to coming here.
Or for an aspect of the project that may not occur if that incentive is not given.
Okay. And so here, and I'm referring to page 118 of Mike Culberson, he was asked, because you can understand that it doesn't make sense to give money that's incentive money to a project that's already committed, and he said correct. Do you agree with that?
I think it depends on the situation of the project.
So do you agree with Mr. Culberson?
I don't have enough information to agree with that. Just a blank statement.
And then he was asked, and so that would be another reason that would cut against giving money to the Homeward Suites project if they were already committed, and he says, I agree. Do you agree with that?
No.
And who's the expert as between you and Mike Culberson on economic development?
I don't know who has the most expertise on that.
I mean, have you worked in the RDC before?
No, I've not worked at the RDC.
Okay, have you done specifically economic development for years and years like Mike Culbertson has?
I did economic development in the city of San Marcos also, so yes.
Okay, I thought you were more on the finance. You didn't, did you mention that earlier?
Under finance, that also deals with economic development.
Well, yeah, that's like Corpus too, right? Yeah, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but you weren't doing solely economic development as your expertise like Mr. Culbertson, right?
No.
He's more of a, his focus is more specific on economic development than yours.
Sure.
Do you agree they should not qualify for an incentive if they're already here?
No.
So if he was asked, Mr. Culbertson was asked, they should not qualify for an incentive, answer right. They're already here, answer yes. You understand that he's saying there that, hey, if they're already committed to being here, then we shouldn't be giving them an incentive. You understand that's what he's saying?
No, I understand what he's saying, yes.
Okay. And do you agree with him?
I think it depends on the situation.
Okay, because I mean, the whole, like you said, well, what you're testifying to right now is different than the but-for rule, right?
Yes and no, because we give incentives to businesses that are already established for different aspects of their business. Maybe they're expanding, maybe they're adding a new service.
But it still has to meet the but-for rule that they wouldn't do that but for.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and so if for example, do you know if the grant or the award of money that we're here talking about today, do you know, did you ever do anything to test the but-for rule?
Yes.
Who did you talk to about that?
We talked with legal on it on the but-for because this was not for the construction of the whole hotel. This incentive was given for the development of the retail along the street.
Okay, and then did you,
So again,
did you ever talk to anybody else before other than legal about that? About application of the but-for rule?
I believe Mr. Culbertson and I had conversations also.
Anybody else?
I can't recall.
And you just said it, but ultimately you said the money went to improvements on the street.
Exactly. It was for the improvements on the street, which allowed for the development of the retail along the street, which would be consistent with the neighboring retail.
Nothing to do with FEMA.
Well, it had to do with the flood proofing that was needed to be able to achieve that.
Nothing to do with FEMA's change in rules on a floodplain.
No, no.
Completely different.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as you can recall sitting here right now,
Yes.
the only people that you talked to about whether or not this meets the but-for rule would have been legal and maybe Mike Culbertson.
Yes.
And who at legal?
Amy Alcorn Reed was our legal, the legal counsel that we dealt with on economic development.
And did anybody else at legal?
I think we talked with Miles, I'm not sure.
Did either one of them indicate that they had talked with, for example, Devin Bacta or with Mr. Ramirez?
We had conversations with them, yes.
With who?
With both.
And we may be kind of getting off track here.
Yeah.
I'm asking specifically about the but-for analysis. I know you did an investigation and talked to them later, right? At some point?
Well, I talked to, they were they were applying for it, so we were entering into an agreement with them.
And here's my point. You're telling me you had conversations with them, and I
Yes.
know that.
Okay.
Okay? What I'm trying to ask is if you had any conversations with them on this but-for rule.
I don't know that I specifically discussed that with them, no.
Okay. And so you don't know if you had any specific discussions on this but-for rule that were with any of the names we're naming, Ramirez, Bacta,
Yeah.
Reed, Miles Risley, Mike Culbertson, or people at our EDC. You don't recall any specific conversations with them about the about what would Ramirez and the Homewood Suites Group and Bacta do but for?
So we had conversations that, based off of the requirements that they needed to build to, If we wanted to preserve the retail have the retail space, that this is what the incentive was for. The but-for came into play in the fact of if they did not receive the incentive, then they would do something different on that bottom floor. So that was the but-for.
And who did you talk to that about?
Talked with our legal department, talked with Amy.
Okay.
I think I don't know if I specifically had a conversation with Miles, and then in the conversations, not in those exact words of but-for, but talking with the applicants, understanding what their needs were and what the design pivot points were. So.
And what are the requirements for infrastructure under Type B rules?
I'm not sure what.
Or, I mean, are you not familiar with there being a requirement for infrastructure in order to receive a positive recommendation out of our EDC?
So infrastructure as in, I mean, infrastructure covers a lot of stuff. Are you talking about utility infrastructure, building infrastructure?
Well, here,
I mean, they're adding buildings.
well, the infrastructure that the applicants say they brought to the table when they went to the REDC was compliance with FEMA new or recent rules, right?
The need to modify the design to comply with that to preserve the retail space.
And by comply with that, you mean comply with what they characterized as recent FEMA rules changes?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be an infrastructure feature to the project if they had to comply with recent changes in FEMA rules?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And that feature of the project completely disappeared over time. And by that I mean the reason for awarding the $2 million at the second reading had nothing to do with FEMA, correct?
It was to, exactly, because it was to preserve the retail space. So there was a pivot point.
So the answer to my question is yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure they're very two different things.
Yes.
The way the project came into REDC and as a infrastructure project in order to be funded to comply with, quote, as they called it, recent changes
Yes.
in FEMA rules. That's what it came into the pipeline with.
Exactly.
And by the time of the second reading, it was none of that.
Well, actually, when it left the Type B board, the decision they made was based off of not necessarily just the flood proofing, but to be able to preserve the retail space and the retail consistency.
And then we know your first reading, of course, said all the FEMA language.
Exactly. It was brought forward incorrectly, yes.
Okay. The first reading for the city of Corpus Christi had all that language of infrastructure and FEMA in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then the second reading had none of it in it.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to get to that in more detail, but
Okay.
we kind of got ahead of ourselves there. It's okay. I'm going to put some kind of timeline to our discussion since we're kind of getting there.
Sure.
And it's in the deposition, so you may have read it, but do you agree that it looks like the application was received September 27, 2023? Does that comport with your memory?
About that time frame, yeah, I can't speak to that exact date, but yes.
And if you read his deposition, he had a cheat sheet
Okay.
of dates, and I told him to use it. Okay.
Yeah, it was about that time frame.
You're not disagreeing with that. If
No,
that's
I'm
what
not.
Mike Culbertson said, you agree.
That is correct, yes.
And then he also testified that the project was presented to the REDC on October 12, 2023. Does that sound correct?
That sounds yeah.
If Mr. Culberson testified to it, that's sort of his area of
Yes.
specialty, so you don't disagree with
Yeah, that was his board meeting, so yes, I would defer to him on the date.
I use that word too, defer. You'll hear it now. And then if he testified that the REDC voted to recommend $1,043,000 on November 9, 2023, that was also his board meeting, and do you accept that date as true from him?
Yes, that sounds approximate, yeah.
And then it went to closed session with the Type B board on November 23, 2023. Again, is that something Mike Culberson would know more about?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact date, yes.
And you would accept what he says is true
Yes,
there?
yeah.
And then the open meeting for the Type B board, does it comport with your memory? His testimony was it occurred on December 11, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Did you attend that meeting?
Yes.
Did you attend any of the REDC meetings? No. Okay. It's kind of a good time for a break. It's an hour. Is it 5
Sure.
or 10 minutes? Whatever you want.
Okay, that sounds great.
We'll be right here.
Okay.
Time is 10:04 a.m. We're off the video record. Time is 10:15 a.m. We're back on the video record.
Earlier you had, I think, expressed some disagreement with Mr. Culberson's testimony about the Homewood Suites project cannibalizing other hotels, correct?
Yes.
You understand he testified that Homewood Suites as a project was cannibalizing, and you're kind of saying you looked at that differently.
So I wouldn't say different. I don't know. So the statement you made was that I think basically, I guess, actually, can you reread the statement that you read from Mr. Culberson, or the question that you asked Mr. Culberson?
By the way, the right answer to that is you don't get to ask me questions, but I'm going to do it for you.
I can't properly answer unless you read that back to me. So.
Okay. Question, this is the question and answer as between
Yes.
me and Mr. Culberson. I
Yes.
asked, and because it is supposed to be, the money is supposed to be for the purpose of giving an incentive to increase economic development, he answers that is correct. And then I continued the question, and what we're talking about, this cannibalization effect is not increasing economic development. And his answer is yes, and that's on pages 115 and 16.
Okay.
Do you understand what I've read to you?
Yes, I do.
And do you understand that that's him saying that the Homewood Suites project will have the effect of cannibalizing other hotels in town?
Yes.
And so then my question was, I think you, without trying to characterize it,
Sure.
I just said,
Yes.
I think you had some disagreement with that.
I had some disagreement in the fact that he said that there, and I guess entailed that there was not an economic development effect due to the cannibalization. I don't agree with that because there is an economic development effect. That is a new structure being built in our downtown area, and I don't know to what effect the cannibalization would offset that. I don't have that statistic. In my understanding and talking with our Convention and Visitors Bureau, there is a need for additional hotel rooms downtown. And so I would still see that there would be an economic development benefit and effect from having a new structure, occupying areas where there are vacant structures, in addition to the hotel rooms and the retail.
So the extent
So I
of
guess
your
qualification.
so the extent of your disagreement is not that you're saying he's always wrong about that effect.
Exactly.
In fact, you're, I think, saying he's right about that effect
Yes.
being cannibalizing, except for the periods of time when we may be at 100% occupancy.
Yes.
And you don't know how often that happens.
I don't know. I don't know the exact amounts, and the fact that it shouldn't solely be, the economic development effect should not solely be based off of what that cannibalization is, that there are other aspects that do provide economic development benefit.
And he's the one who did the economic benefit analysis
Yes.
by running it through their program.
Yes.
A program that you don't know which one it is.
I do not know, no.
Okay, and you did not do the economic development, you did not run it through a program.
We did analysis on it, just looking at what the current property values were and what the property value was going to be when this came online. And along, like I said, with the need for more retail downtown, restaurants downtown, that type of stuff.
Object non-responsive. Sometimes lawyers do that and you have permission to ignore me.
Okay.
My question was a little different. You did not do any sort of a economic modeling like with the computer or with a software like they did at REDC?
No, I do not have a software. Did do computer, Excel spreadsheet, looking at property values, that kind of stuff.
Okay, what, in the past, have you ever, I really do, I thought it's called RIMS, but I may have it wrong. Have you ever used that program?
No.
Have you ever used any kind of program to, like RIMS or whatever the software is that they use? Were you ever the one doing that actual computer modeling simulation?
I did computer modeling simulation through Excel worksheets. On my own, we did not have access to that type of software.
Okay, but doing an Excel worksheet is you putting the numbers in. It's not relying upon a computer program. That's a pre-existing program where you feed in data points about industry and all that. It's
No.
you making a spreadsheet.
A financial model, yes.
Well, on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
You coming up with the numbers and putting them in.
Based off the information that I'm given and
Okay.
can glean, yes.
Okay, but I mean, you understand there's a difference between running a program and filling out a spreadsheet.
I would just, I mean, yes, there is a difference.
Okay.
Yes, there is a difference.
Okay. And when they modeled it over at REDC, the Homewood Suites project, they modeled the entire project, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's the way they do it, is how many rooms, $30 million.
Exactly.
What, they do the whole project, right? Right?
Yes.
And you told me that in the end, though, the only but-for analysis you did was just based upon this improving the curb appeal.
And providing additional retail and restaurant spaces.
Right, so you did not ever go do a model again for the whole project?
No.
Okay. And no one did, right?
No.
So when the change occurred for the second reading, you know what I'm referring to, right?
Yes.
After that change occurred, there was never any sort of modeling of the entire project like had been done at the very beginning when it came out of REDC. Agreed?
That is correct.
Okay. And you understand that modeling done at REDC is for the specific purpose. They're given the task of doing that modeling to evaluate whether or not it is an economic development project that qualifies for money.
So yes, they do. Theirs just talks about the return on investment.
That's why they do it,
Over a period of 5 years.
to see if it's worth the investment of public money.
Exactly, but there are other aspects besides just the return on investment that we provide incentives, that we grant incentives for.
And that economic development modeling was never done again once the project purpose changed, right? You just told me that a second ago.
So yes, there was not a financial modeling looking at the return on investment, but I said there are other aspects that are incentivized that is not necessarily a direct dollar for dollar return on investment.
And one of those other aspects you probably saw we talked about in the deposition was it become political. Did you see that in the deposition?
No, I did not.
Okay, you didn't see him talk about how, yes, their analysis back at REDC is based upon a numerical evaluation of the return on investment. Did you see that part?
I didn't read all the way through it, no. I read parts of it, but not all the way through.
And did you see the part where he talks about, but later in time it just became more about politics?
No, I didn't see that part.
Okay. We mark things as exhibits and depositions so we can keep track of documents. And this first one I'm going to mark is going to be, has your name on it.
Okay.
It's going to be Hurlbert 1. And see if you recognize this, because I know you said you went to the Type B board meeting. See if you recognize this as their agenda and then the slide presentation that was used at the Type B board meeting.
Yes, this does look like the type B board agenda.
Okay. And confirm the date. I know we said it earlier in the record.
December the 11th, 2023.
Okay. And you were there for that presentation.
Yes.
And do you remember during the presentation, for example, that really I think that Mr. Ramirez, Philip Ramirez, was doing most of the talking in terms of the applicant?
I believe so.
Pardon?
I said I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, because I'm not trying to trick you, what I'm about to ask you about are, I believe, quotes from what he said.
Okay.
But I'm not going to hold you down to the word, to the
Okay.
quote, okay? Do you remember him talking about that one thing that came up that was not anticipated was FEMA maps were preliminary but became finalized and adopted, and in order to get a building permit, we needed to comply with the new FEMA requirements, something
Yes.
along that line?
Yes.
Do you remember him talking about that? It kind of hit us midstream. It threw us for a little bit of a loop for some aspects of the project we weren't planning on.
That is correct, yes.
And that he said something along the lines Mr. Ramirez did about it. It did certainly throw a wrinkle and an aspect of the project from a constructability perspective, but also just an added cost that we were not anticipating when we first started moving the project forward.
Yes.
And he's talking about FEMA there, that he's talking about free, he's saying we need the money because FEMA threw us a curveball.
To accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, yeah.
Well, to comply with what he said were the new FEMA regulations.
Yeah.
Okay. And Philip went on to say then that they then had to do some things to mitigate these new FEMA requirements. So we had to elevate the floor, and we had to provide flood proofing and provide new infrastructure. Do you remember that? Things along this line?
Yeah, to preserve the retail along the bottom floor, yes.
Well, he's actually talking about raising the floors, the floor levels, right? Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
In response to FEMA, what he's calling new FEMA rules, right? Correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And he says we need the money, basically, he said, because, and I'm quoting now, there were some FEMA requirements. I put in FEMA. He just said requirements, but he's referring to them. There were FEMA requirements or parameters that we certainly did not anticipate, and we wanted to be good stewards and comply with the FEMA, right?
Yes.
You remember that was his pitch.
Yes.
And it's really not, I don't mean, it's okay, I guess, to say we're trying to be good stewards, but the truth is you got to comply with FEMA rules. It's not a I feel good, I'm doing it to be good. You're doing it, he has to do it, right?
Yes.
I mean, he's required to comply with FEMA rules, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And if you look at exhibit number 1, if you'll go to the slide presentation,
Yes.
and then the second page, one more page, do you remember them using that slide?
Yes.
And you and I both know that became a slide that has generated a lot of controversy in this lawsuit. Fair enough?
Yes.
And that's a slide that Mr. Ramirez used when he was, let me hold on just a second. What he's talking about, when you lean back and you rock, it moves your
Gotcha.
background, and it's,
Okay.
he's worried it's going to make the jury seasick.
Okay.
I know what he's trying to do.
Okay. Let me pull up a little bit further there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
That's okay. Mr. Ramirez relied upon that slide when he was making the presentation to the Type B board and requesting $2 million of public money, right?
Yes.
And that slide is a screenshot of a FEMA federal website, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I have, and I actually didn't get a hard copy of it. It was a technology challenge for me, okay? I have here, let me back up though. I have the screenshot here at least of the actual slide, and I'm going to show it to you now and draw your attention to the release date, the release number, and then it states the release date again.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you look at that.
Yes, this is the press release.
Yeah. Do you recognize that what I just showed you is the same thing that's on slide that was used during the Type B presentation, except for the one used at Type B had data removed?
I can't speak to if it was data removed, but it's not here versus what's on the screenshot.
Okay. On the real one, it has a release date of April 13, 2022, right?
That is correct.
And then below that, it again states I'm blowing it up for you so that you can see it easier. Below that release date, it again says at a second location that the release date is April 13, 2022, right?
That is correct.
And then on the one that FEMA published, it also has a release number of R6009, right?
Yes. Yes.
And someone has removed or altered that information from what was presented to the Type B board, right?
From what I can tell, yes.
Okay. Did you do that?
No.
Okay. Do you understand that this slide used in front of the Type B board had information that would give the reader, the Type B board members, data as to when the final release of the FEMA rules became effective?
Actually, it still has the date when it became effective. It's October the 12th, 2022.
Right.
Or October 13th, 2022.
Good point. The release date is what they removed, somebody.
Of the press release.
Yeah, well, fair, okay, of when it was published in the press.
When the press release was published.
Okay. And that moves the date back to April 13, 2022 instead of the effective date being October 13, 2022.
I would agree the effective date is October 13th, 2022.
Right. And so they removed language to show that these FEMA guidelines removed data so that you didn't know it had been released to the press in April.
I can't speak to that. I'm not sure why it would have been omitted, especially since the slide didn't really deal with any dates. It just talks about the projects.
Okay. Well, do you think it's okay to alter a federal document?
I wouldn't consider this a federal document.
Pardon?
I said I wouldn't consider this a federal document. It's a screenshot.
Okay. Do you think it's okay to alter a federal document?
No, I don't think it's okay to alter a federal
Do you
document.
think it's okay to request public funds using a federal document that's been altered?
I haven't received a federal, or no, I don't think it's okay to alter a federal document to receive funds. No.
Okay. Do you think public money even more so that's true, right?
I think at any money it would be.
Fraud.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so if you look, though, there's actually another publication, and let me show it to you. It's also a FEMA document that was published online. See, it has a release date of October 9, 2020.
Yes.
And it has a release number of R620-012.
Yes.
And do you see that this is information that was released to the public by FEMA in October of 2020, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's even 2 years earlier than the release date on the previous FEMA publication we were talking about.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you see that that was a release by FEMA of the revised preliminary flood maps for Nueces County? And that you see that?
Yes.
And that they're ready for public view back in October of 2020, right?
Yes.
So if we just look at the FEMA documentation, these things that Philip Ramirez was characterizing as recent changes that were needed in order to, or let me back up. If we look at these federal documents and we look at Philip Ramirez's presentation, we see that, one, Philip Ramirez was characterizing the changes in the flood maps, I'm using their word, in the flood maps as being a recent change when he makes the presentation in December of 2023, right?
I believe so, yes.
But we know just from looking at the FEMA documents that those flood maps had been released for review back in October of 2020, right?
Yes.
And you,
Well, well, let me qualify that. I don't know what released means. From the document, it says, yes, they were released. I'm not sure when that was available. I'm not sure what that means, so.
well, put it this way, if you look at the October 2021, I'll go ahead and show you this. Do you see where you can click on the flood map change viewer and it gives you a website?
Okay.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And if you click on that, I'll show you exhibit number 2 to your deposition. It gives you, do you see that?
Yes.
You recognize that? You can see the L heads and the T heads for Corpus Christi, right? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so back in October of 2020, if you click on that, you can see the new FEMA flood maps back in October of 2020, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you probably know, I think it's on slide, let me see this first slide.
This one or this one?
Actually,
That's just the title page.
Yeah, here it is. This is the one I was asking for. Do you remember him talking about it, that they reimagined the project like July of 2022 or sometime in 2022? It's in the Type B presentation that he did.
I think it was 23, wasn't it?
Okay, that's better for me, but either way, okay? The point is that they imagined the project years after the FEMA The truth is they imagined this very project, the Homewood Suites, years after FEMA flood maps had already changed, correct?
Like I said, I'm not sure what, I don't know when they imagined it. If it was in 22, it would be about the time it was adopted, right?
Well, no, and please answer my question.
Sure.
And I said 2022 and you said 2023. In either event, that is years after the FEMA flood maps were published
For review.
in 2020.
Yes.
Okay, so they didn't even think about this project until after the FEMA flood maps were already available for them.
Yes, it appears that way.
Yeah, and that's not a recent change, right?
No.
Okay, and I think if you read Culberson's deposition, I think the words we said in there, among other things, is that the word he used, actually, he volunteered it, was that it's really disingenuous at a minimum to the Type B board to say it was a recent change when it had been a change in the making for years. Fair enough?
Fair. Yes.
Okay. And some people might think it's, well, if you went and removed the release dates from the slide we were looking at a moment ago, and go ahead and hold that up so the camera can be clear on which one we're talking about.
This one?
Yeah, hold it up where you can see it if you can. That's the slide they used during the presentation to the B board, right?
Yes.
And that's the one that has it's altered, it's had dates removed from it, right? Correct?
It doesn't appear the same as what you showed me on the screen, yes.
Okay, and that's an alteration. If you remove a date, that's an alteration,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's not, if you're removing information, that makes it look like you have some plan, some intention to not really give the full truth.
I can't speak to that.
And you can't disagree with it though, can you?
No, but I don't know what the intent behind it was. So.
I understand.
Or if there was intent.
Yeah, you don't know why.
No.
But you did an investigation to see who removed that data.
Yes.
And I think you concluded Philip Ramirez did.
Yeah, it was, he prepared or his staff, his company prepared the slides.
Yeah. And that was part of an investigation that was launched by the city of Corpus Christi and their city manager, right?
Yes.
And you discovered that Philip Ramirez, and I'm not saying he had his fingers on the keyboard, but he or his staff are the ones that had altered the slide and provided it to the CCR EDC.
Yeah, they provided the presentation, yes. I said they provided the presentation to the EDC.
They meaning Philip Ramirez and his staff?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you conclude that it was Philip Ramirez or his staff working for Philip Ramirez that made that alteration?
We met with Philip city manager, myself. I don't remember who else was at the meeting, but we talked to him about, he verbally, we talked about it, so.
He admitted it.
He said that yeah, it was his staff that had prepared it.
Okay, and did they admit to removing the date?
He said he wasn't sure how the date was removed or how the screenshot was captured.
Okay, so that's sort of, he kind of admitted it but didn't really come clean. That's kind of what that sounds like
Well,
to me.
like I said, he said that that staff prepared it, that he's not sure how the screenshot, he didn't know how the date was not on that screenshot.
I mean, was he suggesting that somehow it was like a computer error that happened to remove the release date and the reference number?
He wasn't sure.
But was he suggesting that in any way? That it was like a computer error?
I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. I just remember that he said that there was not, that staff had prepared it. He wasn't sure why the date was not included on there.
Okay, well, I mean, was he suggesting like somehow the release date and then again the release date and then again the reference number had somehow accidentally disappeared from the document, from the federal document?
He said he didn't know.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you now, he didn't say, well, how did you conclude it was him if he didn't even know how it happened?
He said that his staff had prepared the presentation.
Was it at his direction?
Yes.
Okay, so at his direction, his staff prepared the slide and the release date was removed and then the second release date was removed and then the reference number was removed.
I can't speak to that. He didn't say that he directed staff to do that. He directed staff to create the presentation.
Did he tell you that the staff was renegade, that they like did it without his permission?
No.
Like somebody had tricked his staff or anything like that?
No, but what he did say is that this was a screenshot. He wasn't sure why the date wasn't included on there, where there was not an intent behind not including it. It was more of just a reference picture, in essence.
Well, do you see how removing the date fits into the false narrative that it was a recent change in FEMA? You see that, don't you?
I understand that, yes.
Okay, which, I mean, if your narrative is something false and you remove the data so you can sell the false narrative, that doesn't pass the smell test at least, right?
If in fact it was a false narrative, yes.
Well, the narrative that you needed it for new FEMA requirements was false, right?
Well, yes.
Okay. And do you think it's okay to get $2 million in public money that is even in part based upon a false narrative?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you exhibit number 3, and I think you'll recognize that as your memo relating to this same ordinance that we're talking about. Do you see that?
Yes.
And did you draft that?
No, I didn't actually draft this. This was drafted by the EDC.
Okay.
Is this the second reading one or the first reading one?
First reading.
Okay. The first reading memo was drafted by the EDC.
And did you sign off on it?
Yes, in essence, yes.
Yeah. And in that memorandum, is it fair to call it a memo?
The agenda memo, yes.
I think it's dated January 30, 2024, right?
Yes.
So it's after the presentation to the Type B board where we just looked at the altered slide, right?
Yes.
And in this presentation, though, Philip Ramirez again used the same altered slide, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the memo that you prepared, by the way. This second time that I'm referring to where Mr. Ramirez used the same altered slide, that occurred at a meeting on February 20, 2024. Does that sound right to you?
February 20th, yeah, that was for the first reading of the ordinance.
Yes. And you wrote your memo, obviously, in advance of that on about January 30, or the date on it's January 30.
Yes.
Okay. And so for this time period of January 30 to February 2024, we're seeing a continuation of this narrative. By the way, have you heard the audio tape where Peter Zanoni refers to it as a scheme?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'll say narrative till we get there.
Okay.
We're seeing that for this period of time, just like we had seen in December of 2023 in front of Type B board, we're seeing the same false narrative here in this January 30, 2024 memo, and we see it by the use of the same altered slide on February 20, 2024, right?
The same, the same, yes. But I would argue, though, when here it does talk about the FEMA flood zone requirements, but it also talks about exterior upgrades and lease spaces, which again goes back to the intent of the Type B board.
Okay, well, but it also goes back to the intent of the presentation being using altered federal documents.
Again, I don't agree with a federal altered document. This is a screenshot of a website.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, an altered website.
A screenshot.
Okay, well, screenshot.
Yeah.
Well, you basically, they screenshot the website. That's a federal website, right? Is
But
it
it's
a
not a
yes?
federal document.
It's a federal website, correct?
Yes.
Wait, and you can download it as a PDF federal document, right?
Which it was not.
Huh?
I said, but that was not what was done.
Well, instead they took a screenshot of it and altered it.
Yes.
Okay, and you've already
yeah.
said that's not okay.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I mean, it's wrong no matter how you cut it.
Yes.
You're not trying to say because it's a website, it's okay to mislead, but a document, you can't alter it. You're not saying that.
Well, no, what I'm saying is you keep referring to it as a federal document. If it's it's not it was a screenshot of a website. so,
Okay, he's altering federal information.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, and that's bad.
Yeah.
It's horrible, right? I mean, it's horrible. Can we agree?
If you were to alter a federal document, yes.
Well, if you're altering federal information in order to deceive somebody to thinking it's recent, that's horrible. Agreed?
Yes.
Especially if you're asking for public money with it.
Yes.
And that's what he was asking for, public money using this federal, whatever you want to call it, altered screenshot, right?
I can't say that he was, anyway.
He was using it. It was up on the big screen.
It was up on the screen, yes.
Okay, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. You would never in your life do that, would you? Alter a federal screenshot and go present it to solicit public money. You would never do that in your life, would you?
No.
Okay.
But I don't feel like that's anyway. Yeah. that's not
I
the
don't want to
case.
argue
Yeah,
with you. Just
exactly.
okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, in your memo, at least, and I'm just putting together the timeline in
Sure.
terms of in December of 2023, we see this federal altered, whatever you want to call it, document, screenshot, website. And then we see it again being referred to, not specifically the alteration, but the same FEMA information.
Yes.
The false FEMA information, we see it being referred to in your memo or being relied upon in part by your memo. I said in part because of the distinction you made a moment ago.
Yes.
And then we see it again that Philip Ramirez uses it on February 20, 2024, right?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, if you look at the caption, first of all, on your agenda memo that you published on January 30, 2024, it says there's going to be a first reading on February 20th, which there was, right?
Yes.
It says the second reading is scheduled for February 27th, right?
Yes.
And that second reading did not occur on February 27 because all heck broke loose.
That is correct.
Okay. And the heck that broke loose was the accusation that there'd been an alteration of federal data.
That is correct.
And because as of at least January 30, 2024, your memo still under the caption says that the 2 million is, and I'm going to quote now, for cost associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements. That's one of the things stated there, right?
Yes.
And you later came out to learn that wasn't really true.
Well, no. The money was still going to those things that were required by FEMA. You know, it's still to build the infrastructure that is required by FEMA to do, but they had two different choices, right? They could have done a more invasive model where you would lose a lot of that retail, or they could do a different requirement or different thing to achieve the same requirement with a less invasive that would preserve the retail space.
Right, but at the time you wrote your memo, you still thought the lie was true.
I'm not sure there was a lie.
Well, you still thought the altered information, you did not know about the altered information, did you?
I wasn't relying on the altered information.
Right, I understand it was the applicant that was relying on and presenting the altered information, right?
I don't believe so, no. What was being presented was the fact of doing something different that was going to cost more instead of doing another type of flood. Both of them were related to flood, whether they did it one way or the other.
Okay, so why did, I mean, so earlier you told me the first narrative and the second narrative were completely different. Do you remember that?
Yes, but the statement that wasn't, I mean, all of it was for FEMA flood. What you're talking about is the reliance on whatever the dates were, the newly defined, right?
Well, let's just do it this way. Does it say in your memo that the $2 million is, quote, for costs associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements?
Which is true.
Does it say that?
Yes.
Okay, and that sentence was removed in your second memo, wasn't it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I have it here if you want.
Okay.
We'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah.
And does it say on the background that under background, does it say, quote, on this January 30th one, on January 22, 2024, the Type B Corporation unanimously approved an agreement with Elevate QOF LLC for costs associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements. Do you see that?
Yes.
And the reference to costs associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements was removed from your subsequent memo, right?
Yes.
And so, and then on your January 30th memo, does it say that, find the paragraph if you will, the grant request will be utilized? Do you see that? It's on the top of the second page.
Okay. Okay.
Where it says, quote, the grant request will be utilized for additional costs associated with newly defined Federal Emergency Management Agency, open parent FEMA, close parent, AE flood zone requirements that has added additional unexpected costs of $1,510,000 and change towards the
Yes.
project. Do you see where I read that?
Yes.
That sentence was completely removed from your subsequent memo, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the reason you removed those things is because there was this change. Well, your removing those created a changed memo, obviously. You didn't go with this memo that was originally designed for both readings.
That is correct.
Okay, in other words, this memo, we can look at the top of it and we can tell that this memo is supposed to be for the first reading and the second reading.
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't use this memo for the second reading. You went and did a completely new reading, new memo.
Yes, it was modified.
Yes, changed,
Yeah.
revised, all of the above.
Yes.
Okay.
But the dollar amount remained the same. The project remained
no,
the
they
same.
still got their money, politics included, right?
Oh, that's an unfair statement, I think.
Okay, I mean, come on. You probably know do you know the closest of the relationship between Philip Ramirez and Devin Bokta and the mayor?
No.
Okay. Do you know what political influences there were?
No.
They still got their money, didn't they?
Because of the project qualified, yes.
Well, it didn't qualify at REDC because it didn't even have an infrastructure component anymore, according to them. You know that's what Mike Culberson testified to.
I can't, no, I don't.
Okay, so you can't argue with him. He's the expert in that, right?
He's
got more EDC and infrastructure and REDC direct experience with modeling and the things he did than you do.
I don't know I don't know how long he's been with the EDC now.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, in the recommendation, at least in the first memo, was, quote, staff recommends approval of the agreement in an amount not to exceed $2 million to be funded by the B Corporation in fiscal year 2024. Let me restate it. Sorry about that. And then at the end of your first memo, it says, under the recommendation, staff recommends approval of the agreement in an amount not to exceed $2 million to be funded by the CCB Corporation fiscal year 2024, right?
Yes.
And that is typical that staff will either recommend or not.
Exactly.
Okay, that's that's staff's job.
Exactly, based off of the decisions made by the Type B board.
Well, and based upon the information
Exactly.
provided by the applicant.
Exactly.
Which was all this FEMA, what we now know is FEMA garbage, right?
Based off the application, yes.
Okay, which had FEMA garbage in it, things that were untrue or false or misleading, whatever word you want to use, right?
Based off the application, yes.
Okay, which had that false information in it. No comment?
No.
Okay. Anyway, and then on the list of supporting documents, it says the things that were relied upon to make this recommendation. That's what you're listing there, right?
Yes.
The things that were relied upon to make the recommendation according to your memo were the agreement, and I assume that means the proposed agreement between Type B. When you're saying agreement, are you talking about the proposed agreement between Type B and the applicant?
Yeah, so clarification,
yes?
the list of supporting documents is not what was used to make the decision. The list of supporting documents is what's actually attached to this memo on the agenda item.
Are you telling me that you probably like to attach the irrelevant stuff? Or do you try to attach the meaningful stuff?
Well, stuff that supports this, yes.
Yeah, the meaningful, the things you're relying
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Okay. And so the things that you were relying on is, one, the proposed agreement between Type B board and the applicant.
Yes, because that was being forward for, that's what was being approved, is the agreement.
Right. And the other thing that's here as far as the listed item you relied upon is FEMA cost estimates, right?
Yes,
And who provided those FEMA cost estimates?
the developer, or the applicant.
And then the other thing that you were relying upon in order to make this recommendation for $2 million to be given was the FEMA flood map. Do you see that?
Yes,
And the other thing you were relying upon was the PowerPoint presentation, which had the altered federal website, slide, whatever you want to call it.
so I would not agree that we're using the PowerPoint presentation to make the decision. It was based off the application and the information given
What's listed as the supporting document.
to the agenda item.
Yeah, and so you had false information because it's altered being part of what was supporting the award. I'm using the word supporting because it says supporting documents.
Yeah, supporting the agenda item, yes.
Yeah, which is approval for $2 million, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so there's a direct link, even according to your memo, of that PowerPoint presentation that has the false or misleading information in it and the award of the $2 million.
yes,
And that's, again, that is a horrible thing to have in terms of a record for use of public money. Agreed?
yes.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 4, and I think you'll agree with me that after there's a memorandum, then it usually ends up on an agenda.
Yes,
And I think it's on page 4 of the agenda. This specific agenda item, right?
yes,
And the ordinance, it's called Ordinance 24-0256. That's the one we've been talking about, right?
yes,
The ordinance reads, or the agenda item, I'm going to read it into the record so we can talk about it, make sure I read it right, okay?
sure.
Ordinance authorizing an agreement between the city, I already messed up. I'm going to start over. Ordinance authorizing an agreement between the Corpus Christi B Corporation and Elevate QOF LLC for costs associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements and exterior upgrades for Homewood Suites by Hilton at the corner of Chaparral Street and Lomax Street, appropriating $2 million for a non-reimbursable grant from the Type B Economic Development Fund and amending the budget Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Okay. And that is basically the agenda item that we just now being presented to the city council that we just talked about, your memo that led to that agenda item.
Yeah, it's the caption.
It's this, as of this point, there's no change in it.
No, it's the caption, yes.
We agree?
Yes.
Okay. We had a double negative in there again. And it was during, this meeting occurred, city council meeting occurred on February 20th.
Yes.
And it's during this meeting where Philip Ramirez again used the altered slide, website slide, whatever you want to call it, that he had also used in front of the Type B board.
Yes, it was included in the presentation.
You're learning my system. I'm going to hand you exhibit number 5 to your deposition. And do you recognize this as the February 27, 2024 agenda?
Yes.
And that is what was originally, back when this false narrative was going on, that was going to be the second reading to approve the ordinance.
That is correct. That was when it was originally scheduled, yes.
Pardon?
I said that was when it was originally scheduled, yes.
Yes. And so and to know that it was, we know that because your memo indicates the second reading's supposed to occur on February 27th.
That's when it was planned, yes.
And we also know that because when we look at the actual February 27th agenda item, or excuse me, agenda package, the item on it, the same item's there, right? I think it's on page 3, item 7. See if that helps you.
Yes.
And compare that, if you will, to, I know the one I handed you is the February 27
Yes.
agenda, and
Yes.
your lawyer's handing you the February 20
Yes.
agenda item. Are they identical?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so at least at this point, we see very clearly that the first reading has occurred on February 20th, right?
Yes.
And it's, as we see it reads on the agenda, we see exactly what the words are there, right?
Yes.
And then those exact same words for the second reading appear on the February 27, 2024 agenda.
Yes.
Okay. And that February 27 was supposed to be the second reading of those same words describing the ordinance,
Yes.
or setting forth the terms of the ordinance.
Yes, the caption of the ordinance, yes.
Pardon?
I said the caption of the ordinance.
Well, I mean, it's, if you want to call it a cabinet, it's a lot of words.
Yeah.
However many words it is,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay. It is defining, and this agenda, the way it's worded, identifies many different facets of what's happening, right?
Yes.
It identifies the amount of million at 2 million.
Yes.
It identifies that it's for the purpose of authorizing an agreement between Type B Board and Elevate.
Yes.
It identifies that it's for, quote, costs associated with FEMA AE flood zone requirements,
Yes.
right? It identifies that it's for the Homewood Suites, obviously, right? And gives the location.
Yes.
And it says that based upon that, they'll also be amending the budget.
Yes.
Okay. And that's how it's worded on February 20th and February 27. It's very clear that we have the same ordinance when we compare those two.
Yes.
Okay. Because it's the identical wording.
Yes.
Okay. I hand you exhibit number 6. Have you seen that document before?
I don't know that I'm not sure that I have,
Okay.
because it wasn't addressed to me.
Right. Does it appear to be a email from Ajit David to Peter Zanoni?
Yes, to his personal email?
Yes. Say yes.
Yes.
And before we get to it, I tell you what, go ahead and finish reading it, and then tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. And I want to kind of get the timeline here straight. We talked about the first reading occurred on February 20th and what the basis for the request was at that time.
Yes.
And then that same basis and reasoning was contemplated on the February 27th agenda item.
Yes.
And then you see this, I'm just kind of getting the timeline for us. On May 7, there's a very clear articulation by my client to Mr. Zanoni saying, hey, basically you got an altered document here.
March 7th. You said May 7th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so and I think you'll remember, on February 27th, it came off, it got, it's in the writing somewhere, to be honest with you, I think. It was basically postponed or tabled or taken off the agenda.
It was pulled off the agenda, yes.
It was pulled off the agenda. And were you told at that time, back at February 27th timeframe, on why it was being pulled off the agenda?
I'm trying to remember. I think I was told because there were questions about the project. There were questions about the project.
Okay. Were you given information more detailed, like, hey, we got a problem because they've been showing everybody an altered federal website, screenshot, whatever?
I believe so. I don't remember exactly when I was told that, yes.
Okay, but you think you probably got at least that small bit of data probably back on February 27th?
I know about that. I actually was out of town on February 27th.
Okay, you weren't at that meeting?
No, I was at a conference.
Okay, but so somewhere in there, either that day or immediately afterwards, you heard it got pulled off because there's problems with it.
There were some questions, yes.
Yeah, and the question was, hey, have they been lying to us about this FEMA deadline, about this FEMA timeline?
Yes, that was being brought into question, yes.
About recent changes, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so that was because of this concern about it being some trickery, some misleading information, whatever word you want to use. That's your understanding that they decided to pull it off the agenda and look into it or investigate it?
Yes.
And you were involved in that investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if that investigation started, because we have this March 7 letter that is exhibit number 6. Do you know if the investigation started immediately after February 27, or did it wait until after March 7, or can you tell me?
I don't recall.
Okay. But at least in terms of sort of what was being investigated, I want to review the letter with you and see
Sure.
if it was within the scope of the investigation.
Sure.
Do you see that, first of all, that Mr. David identifies that there are, in the first paragraph, his words, lots of questions?
Yes.
That he identifies that the project is well under construction and a fully committed project. Do you see that?
Yes.
And I think there's actually a newspaper, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but I do know you're on TV too.
Most likely, yes.
Okay, and that is, there was about, really in this same time frame, they were actually working, they'd already done enough structure where they're working on the second floor, right?
I think so, yeah, sure.
Okay. There's a picture in the paper. Whatever it shows, it shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And you understand that he's quoting, he puts in a quote here, you're not supposed to do business incentives, and the way he says it is, quote, no business incentives if construction or program has commenced. Do you see where he's quoted that?
I do.
Okay. So essentially he's complaining, hey, why are you guys giving them $2 million when they're already over there building the second floor?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And you understand that complaint?
No, understand that, yes.
Okay. And that, and then on the next paragraph, it talks about the CCREDC board reviewed the application and that they talked about pandemic-related costs of about $500,000. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then his complaint or his concern goes on to say that then there's $1,510,000 identified basically in the memos that the city had done, right?
Yes, yes.
That I know that number probably came from EDC, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there's this $1,510,000 and change. And he's complaining it's for, quote, new FEMA flood zone requirements. Do you see that?
I do.
And he's saying, hey, you need to look at the presentation because the FEMA screenshot, by the way, he calls it what you call it, a screenshot. The FEMA screenshot in the presentation, he says it's remove the release date and remove the release number. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so at least by this point in time, March 7, do you think you had been made aware specifically that the release date and the release number had been altered?
Most likely.
Okay.
I would think so, yes.
And he says, I honestly think he's just trying to be a little polite. Strangely, I'm going to quote, strangely, these are missing or hidden from the screenshot in the application. How did they disappear? Question mark. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And then he says, I'm attaching a screenshot of the actual FEMA portal where you can see the release date and see the release number, basically.
Okay.
So very clearly here, my client is saying, hey, I'm letting the city know this slide, I'm going to use his word, screenshot, this screenshot of this federal information
Exactly.
has been altered.
Okay.
He's saying that very clearly to you. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And is that specifically what the city was investigating is, hey, this, and you've said it's not good, horrible, whatever word you want to use from earlier, you were investigating why this bad thing had happened that was a document, part of a package to give $2 million to the project?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. David made that very clear that that was the nature of his complaint, is that there's money being given for a project under these false pretenses.
Yes.
Okay. And then he goes on to say it's questionable about a developer using this excuse, meaning, hey, oh, these new FEMA things, because he's an architect and he's supposed to be looking at flooding, flood zones, right?
Yes.
And I assume you would agree, if you're going to do a $30 million building, you better do your homework way in advance on what the flood zone requirements are.
Yes.
And the FEMA requirements are, right?
Yes.
And that means he should have, and maybe did, I'm not going to ask you to speculate, he
Yes.
certainly should have known back as early, remember I showed it to you in October of 2020, that they were publishing the new FEMA flood maps.
Yes.
Okay. And you would certainly expect a project developer, architect, somebody who's doing a $30 million project to do their homework and be aware of that, not at the 11th hour, which is what they were pretending in front of Type B, but you would expect them to have done it early in the development of their project. And by it, I mean looking at the flood maps.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't, and for all you know, he did look at them, he being Mr. Ramirez, right?
Yeah, I can't speak to whether he did or didn't.
Right. And so you can't speak to whether he knew about the flood maps beginning in 2023 or all the way back to 2020.
Exactly.
You only know that to represent the flood maps as being a recent development in 2024 is not really true, because we showed it to you where they were being published in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that I'll just ask you, that you agreed with Mr. David's criticisms that he's articulated that we just went over in this letter?
On face value, yes.
Yeah. Well, and you did an investigation. You and who else were involved in the investigation?
The city manager, I think we had the Miles Risley, I believe Miles Risley was involved in it. I don't know who else, to tell you the truth. I don't remember.
Okay. I'm going to show you exhibit number 7 to your deposition. And leaving room for human error by my staff, they have transcribed a audio tape of Peter Zanoni and my client speaking. Do you understand what I've just told you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you a moment to review it. Fair?
Okay.
Let's go off record while she reviews that. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go off record for a second.
Time is 11:16 a.m. We're off the video record. Time is 11:25 a.m. We're back on the video record.
Do you understand we took a break and we're back on the record?
Yes.
And during that break, really just before the break, I think I handed you a transcript that's marked as Exhibit 7.
Yes.
Which is a transcription of a phone conversation between Ajit David and Peter Zanoni.
Yes.
And I think during the break we talked with your lawyer here, and,
Yes.
and I extended the courtesy of actually playing the audio tape so you could see it or hear it while
Yes.
you're also reading the transcript?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And was that helpful to you getting an
Clarity?
understanding how
Yes.
the conversation went?
Yes, it was very helpful. Thank
Okay.
you.
And so, having listened to the recording and having gotten to follow along with the transcript, and by the way, there's a reference in there that it's going to be on an agenda. We know that was April 23rd, right?
Yes.
And we know that he says on there, it's not going to be it's not going to be tomorrow, it's going to be a week from tomorrow, which means this conversation, if you do the math, is 23 minus 7 gives you 16, so the Monday before would be the 15th maybe?
Possibly, yeah. I know that we were going to bring it back several different times, and it was delayed, so I can't say that this was exactly 7 whatever before April 23rd.
Fair enough, and you may be right about that. I've been trying
Yeah.
to date it in my mind, and there may be a record of it, and whatever it is, it is.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
But it's clear from the context of the discussion between Mr. David and Mr. Zanoni that they're talking about the same issue I've been asking you questions about, is
Yes.
this darn altered, and
Yes.
the word he uses is a United States federal porthole.
Exactly.
Okay? And the word that goes unscathed in the discussion between Peter and Ajit is talking about it being the tampering with a United States federal porthole
Yes.
information, right?
Yes.
And I'm using now their words, and without me making them up or you making them up, and without them being your words, you don't have any reason to disagree with that characterization.
No.
That's in the conversation. It was clearly nobody was fighting about it in the
Exactly, yes.
in the discussion.
Yes.
Okay. And so, is it okay then if we refer to it, at least while we're talking about this recording, as being the concern here was the tampering with a United States federal porthole?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's very clear, I think, by this point in time, and again, we don't know the exact date, but by this point in time, we're between the first reading and the second reading.
Yes,
So we know we're between February 20 and April 23rd.
that is correct.
And during that time frame, it's very clear that Peter has full knowledge that this tampering with the United States federal porthole has occurred.
Yes.
And it's very clear he is the one that characterizes it or uses the word scheme.
Yes.
And he actually goes into an explanation about how, there was a need for an infrastructure component, so they made up this FEMA thing, and it was a scheme to basically get the money. That's all in there, right?
Yes.
And it was a scheme to get the money that was and by the scheme is the tampering with the United States federal porthole, right?
Yes.
To get $2 million, and correct?
Yes.
And is that consistent with what your investigation found?
Yes.
Yeah. And repeatedly, because of the realization that it was a tampering of a United States federal porthole scheme to get $2 million, Peter repeatedly said that he was not going to recommend it to council, right?
Yes, in this conversation, yes.
Pardon?
I said in this conversation, yes.
Yeah, he said it several times, whatever the exact date is here,
Yeah.
he said it several times on the recording.
Yes.
Okay. And you probably qualified that because in front of the council, he switched and recommended it. You know
Yes.
that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And before we get to that, I've also handed you exhibit number 8, and that's the memo you wrote in order to get to that April 23rd meeting, right?
Yes.
And that April 23rd, or the memo really for April 23rd meeting, is dated March, by the way, that's exhibit 8, right?
Yes.
And that's dated March 11, 2024, right?
Yes.
Did you write it?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the changes compared to the first memo, and the first memo we talked about earlier, right?
Yes.
One of the changes is that this one says the second reading is going to happen on April 23rd, 2024, right?
Yes.
So apparently that was scheduled to be the case as early as March 11.
Not necessarily. A lot of times we don't change the date of the original memo.
Okay.
But these dates do change based off of when we finally schedule it.
Fair enough. I'm glad I asked, just because sometimes I infer something, but I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah, because we don't, like I said, we don't necessarily, this is probably when the date the original memo is started, but we can delay. This is something that happens all the time. Things get delayed, and so we don't go back and update this if there are additional changes made.
And I'm going to read some things because I know, and you probably know, I'm going to ask you about some conversations you had with Lee Olivari.
Yes.
Olivari.
Yes,
And
Olivari.
you probably know I'm going to ask you about how that played into conversations or email exchanges with Mike Culberson.
Sure, yes.
Okay. I know you know that's coming.
Yes.
But let's at least kind of set the table for the shift that's occurred in advance of this April 23 meeting. Is now it says that the $2 million is for, quote, costs associated with the street level retail, public space, and outdoor dining area, right?
Yes.
And those
Yes.
are new words
Yes.
compared to the first memo.
Yes and no, because in the first memo it does talk about which I had pointed out earlier, it says the exterior upgrades, the exterior upgrades, and I think it goes into the exterior upgrades and leased spaces.
Yeah, those are all different words.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's talking about the street level retail, the public space, and the outdoor. Those are all included in those lease
Okay,
spaces. So
they're all different words though, right?
yes, yes.
Okay, you changed it.
But the intent's the same. Yes.
Well, but you
provided
you made
more
changes.
description,
You
yes.
you made changes.
To clarify, yeah.
Well, you did more than that. You took FEMA out.
Yes,
Okay, FEMA's now not the headliner.
exactly.
And the reason you took the headliner out is because it was a big realization, and you can hear it. and I saw it on your face when you listened to it during the break, it's a terrible thing that was being discussed between Peter Zanoni and Ajit David, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and y'all didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole again in the second reading.
No, we provide clarification because the Type B board,
Well, you threw FEMA out.
because that wasn't what the Type B board,
For whatever reason
represented.
you want to say now, you changed it.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now we have the words we just read into it, and on the summary it says it's for, quote, for costs associated with the development of street level retail, public space, and outdoor dining activation. Again, emphasizing those things and removing FEMA the way it had been expressed in the first memo. Correct?
Say that again?
It's putting those words in and removing the FEMA words that were in the first memo.
Yes.
Okay. And then on background, it says again, for costs associated with the development of street-level retail, restaurant, and public spaces to be built along with the Homewood Suites project.
Yes.
Did I read that correctly? And again, those are words that were not in the first memo, and you've removed the words about FEMA that were in the first memo.
Exactly.
And then if you scroll down on this paragraph that starts on February 2024, tell me when you see that.
February 20th, 2024?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
It says, quote, on February 20, 2024, the first reading of the ordinance was presented to City Council for consideration. The ordinance caption primarily focused on the project to comply with FEMA flood requirements. The focus of the project should have instead focused on maintaining the street level retail activation. Have I read it correctly so far? And then the next sentence says, the caption presented for consideration today, meaning April 23rd, right?
Yep.
Correct?
Yes.
Has been updated to properly reflect the aspects of the project from the Type B Corporation.
That is
right?
correct, yes.
Okay. And so you're clearly saying in this memo that the word you used is, hey, this description is, you're wanting to say is the proper one, not the description in the first memo.
That is correct.
Okay.
Expanding on the, yes.
Well, I mean, and that you wanted it to be proper for the second reading, not the, whether you want to call it improper, whatever, in the first reading.
Yes, the caption, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that you always say caption. When you say caption, you're referring to the way it's stated in the agenda.
Agenda, exactly, which sometimes does differ from what the actual ordinance legal document caption is.
Fair enough. And then you go on to say the grant request will be, second paragraph from the bottom. Then you go on to say the grant request will be utilized for costs associated with the development of, and again, you keep repeating these same words in this newer memo, this one for April 23rd, with development of, quote, street level retail, restaurant, and public spaces to be built along with the Homewood Suites project.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think the next sentence is very important, though. It says the cost include flood wall and dry flood proofing the street level structures to maintain consistency with the adjacent buildings across downtown. So that refers back to, while it doesn't specifically say FEMA, it's still the same intent of providing funding to ensure that it complies with
So
FEMA.
did you want there to be a FEMA component in it, even though they lied about FEMA?
Well,
I mean,
but
why would you want to lie in there?
But that, well,
Well, I don't mean you lied. They lied. They lied, right?
I can't say that they lied because the conversation that was had, like I said, Type B approved this because of the.
Well, you weren't a type. You don't get. You can't look into the minds of Philip Ramirez. You told me that earlier. You can't look in the minds of Type B either. Agreed?
But I was there for the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. But you can't say why each person voted and what it would have made a difference on whether they approved it or not, knowing about a federal porthole being tampered with. That may have mattered to some people voting at the Type B board. You can't say.
And no, I cannot say no.
Okay, so let's not guess on
Okay.
what each one of them
Sure.
meant.
Sure.
Fair enough?
Sure.
We'll get to them, okay? We'll let them speak for themselves. Fair?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Anyway, the thing I wanted to highlight here is I think you said it actually 4 times. You keep repeating the words in the second memo, street level retail, restaurant, and public spaces, fair to say?
Yes.
And you consistently leave out the change in FEMA flood maps being the banner reason for the change, for the grant, for the award.
Well, it was the changes in the FEMA flood map that required the changes to keep this activation.
Okay, so you're saying that the $2 million was awarded based upon FEMA flood map changes? And
Well,
so the fraud? I mean, we've already said that's a fraud to have represented it or misrepresented it the way they did, right? You sure you want to, we've already said that, agreed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you sure that you want sitting here to say that the statute as they passed it did rely upon that fraudulent representation?
No, it didn't rely on the fraudulent representation.
Okay.
We've already talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, because the first time it had the fraudulent representation in it as the banner reason for getting the $2 million, right? That was the headline.
Yes.
Okay, and the second time, the headline, the thing that you repeat 4 different times, is worded differently.
Yes, it is worded differently.
Okay.
Yes.
We go off record for a minute.
Time is 11:39 a.m. We're off the video record. Time is 1:02 p.m. We're back on the video record.
One of the other things mentioned in the recording, exhibit number 7, is where Peter states that he's asked if hey Peter, have you, I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
Have you, let the council know about the sentence where they're talking about tampering? And he says, I let them know, we're going to let them know again tomorrow in an executive session. I already have an executive session posted. Do you remember that?
I think so, yeah, and I'm trying to recollect the executive session, but yeah.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to make sure of
Yeah.
is he makes a statement here, and I know you also attend executive session.
Yes.
And is it also your recollection that the council was informed about the tampering of the federal writing or instrument, whatever you
I
want
would
to call it?
object just to anything in executive session, closed session.
Other than the fact that Peter's already given statements to the public about it? I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that's actually, your point is that it's a crime to violate that?
I'm not saying that. I'm just objecting.
Okay,
Preserving it for the
she's not
record.
instructing you not to answer, so we get to go. Let me rephrase the question for you. Is it your recollection also that Peter informed the council during executive session that this slide, this federal instrument or writing, whatever you want to call it, portal screenshot, that it had been tampered or altered?
I want to say that God, I'm trying to remember. I believe that he said there were claims that it had been altered.
Okay. And what else do you remember about that?
I'm trying to remember, that was a long time ago. I don't remember the exact conversation, yeah.
Okay. Are you in any way, and I'm just using the verbiage that's in the recorded statement now, are you in any way refuting that he let them know it had been tampered with?
I think like I said, I think that he said that there were claims that it had been tampered with.
Okay. And did he ever, that you know of in executive session, because you've told me the results of your investigation is you concluded it was in fact tampered with?
It was, yeah, it did not reflect what was on the screen, yes.
Right, which the way the way Peter is talking about it and everybody without objection is they're using the word tampering, so we don't have to
Sure.
soft sell it today, okay? But do you know so we talked about earlier that you agreed with and found in the investigation that the federal document or writing or instrument had been tampered with?
The screenshot was not reflective of what was on the side, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how it got that way, but yes, it was not reflective of what was on the website.
Okay. And were those investigation results reaching the conclusion that there'd been this tampering, as Peter calls it, I'll say it that way,
Yeah.
as Peter agrees to? Was that ever communicated in your presence to the city council?
I'm trying to remember because I don't remember exactly when the executive session was in relation to the conclusion of the investigation. I don't recall when that was.
Let me ask you this. It's a pretty important conclusion when you conclude that a federal document used to get $2 million was tampered with. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. Should that have been communicated to the city council?
Yes.
Was it?
I'm trying to recollect. I don't remember exactly what the conversation was in executive session.
Okay, but it sure should have been. That's darn important information as
Yeah.
we say it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want your city council voting without giving them the knowledge of your investigation.
Yes.
Okay, and so do you think that Peter probably did do it, or you just really don't know? And if you don't know,
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the conversations to say, like I said, I know that he had said that there were accusations. I don't remember how the conclusion of the investigation was communicated back to city council.
But Peter certainly should have communicated not just the claim, but the results of your investigation that it had been tampered to the city council.
Yes.
He should do that.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have the city council voting without the benefit of the
Yes.
investigation.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, like, when he's asking us, a lot of times you say yes, like, it's more conversational, but every time you say yes, it's cutting his question. Like, on the
Okay.
transcript, it just looks really choppy.
Sure.
Thank you.
And reaching back to our discussion a little bit too, in the tape recording or audio recording, Peter says several times he's not going to recommend it. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you look at exhibit number 8, which is your memo,
Yes.
the wording's different from your first memo. In other words, your first memo for February 20, I'm looking at the recommendation section now. Your memo from February 20 said staff was recommending that the ordinance be passed, and now this one is saying staff recommends city council consider this agreement on second reading. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And that's a significant change, right?
Yes.
What the memo says is more consistent with what we see in his recorded statement, which is that he says on page 3 of the recorded statement, quote, I changed the recommendation, in fact, because that's what it had initially. Like, I'm not approving this. I'm recommending they can consider it. That means they consider what they want to do. Look at any other agenda memo on that agenda, on the council meeting, and it always says they should always say staff recommends blank. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
So in other words, in his recorded statement with Ajit and also on your memo, it's a big deal that staff is not recommending it. And Peter's very keen on that distinction. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you know what caused Peter to, on April 23rd, change his mind?
I can't speak to why he changed his mind. I mean, there was a lot of controversy about it, and there were allegations on the fraudulent document.
Well, there was more than just allegations on a fraudulent document. There was an investigation you all had also concluded it was, in fact, tampered or a fraudulent document.
Exactly.
Okay. And so, and you've already, let me ask you this. Do you, when it says staff, what department did this project fall under? It falls under EDC and that area, right?
It falls under economic development, yes.
Did you recommend, that's your area, right?
Yes.
Did you recommend it be passed at the second meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so you recommended it even knowing it was the tampering and altering of a federal porthole or whatever?
Yes, because the Type B board based their decision not on necessarily that screenshot, but the merit of the project.
So as you sit here today, you think it's okay to go ahead and pass an ordinance even if its origin is a forged document?
I did not say that.
Well, I think you did just say that.
No, because I said that it was not, the decision was not based on that forged forged document. It was on the merit of the project.
Well, the first reading at the city council level was definitely based on the forged document.
Exactly, it did not properly reflect the intention and the decision for the Type B board.
Okay, I'll let you say what you just wanted to say. Now, if you'll answer my question.
Yes,
The approval of the proposed ordinance at the first meeting was definitely based upon the
Yes.
forged document.
yes.
Okay, a tampered document.
It was, yes,
Okay. And so you have one reading that's based on a forged document, and then you're saying the second reading was not based on the forged document, right? Were you saying the second reading was? Hey, if you
No.
want to say that they're passing things based on a forged document,
No.
you go ahead.
No.
Okay. And you sure you want to stick with, I recommend that they pass it even though it's a forged document?
but it wasn't,
You sure you want to stick with that?
I recommended this, on the second reading, yes, because it was clarified what the recommendation was from the Type B board.
Okay, but even if that's true, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure it is because the Type B board actually had the forged document in front of it, right?
Yes,
And we don't know how different people would have voted on the Type B board if they'd known it was forged at the time. We've already agreed on that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yes, you told me I couldn't get into, I was reflecting what the discussion was, but yes.
And I'm not trying to put anything in your mind or words in your mouth, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of acquiesced or kind of agreed, yeah, let's not speculate on what this one would do or this member would do or that member
Exactly.
would do if they had known it was forged, right? Correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so whatever they did at Type B, there's still a requirement that you're supposed to have two readings, and I know reasons matter to why members of Type B board vote. They should, right? The reason matters.
but I'm not sure what you mean by
Fair
that.
enough. What one member of the Type B board might think is a reason to vote yes or no might not be the same reasons in the mind of another member of that Type B board voting yes or no.
That is, yes. Yeah, everyone has their own background, their own reasoning, yes.
Everybody has their own reasoning. I'm going to use your words there. And
Yep.
same thing on city council.
Yes,
Reasons matter on how you vote.
yes,
Okay. And so if the reason for voting, whether you're at Type B board or the first reading or the second reading, the reasons changed in terms of how it was presented, right?
okay, that's fair.
Okay. And so if there had been if the first reading, for example, on this had then revealed it was a forged document before they voted, maybe they would have passed it, maybe not, right? Right?
Yes,
But you've just told me, hey, you wouldn't pass it if you knew it was relying on a forged document, right?
yes,
And you can speak for yourself.
yes,
And there may be other council member up there on the first reading that if they'd have known it was a forged document that they're being shown and voting based on it, it may well be, I'm not asking you to speculate, there may well be that they would have said no on the first reading.
possibly,
Okay, we don't know.
yes.
And that's why you're supposed to have two readings that have the same reason behind them.
So I will correct you on that. If this had not been a budget amendment, it wouldn't have required two readings.
Okay,
So
but
to award a contract,
if what's the saying, if ifs and buts were candy and
oh, I know, but I just
Let's
wanted
not-
I wanted to verify though that it could have just been on one reading. It wouldn't have required two readings.
Okay, but you're not saying that this statute falls in that category, though, this ordinance.
The only reason why it's two readings is because it required a budget amendment.
Yeah, and that's the fact, it required two readings.
Yes, not the contract and the award of the project did.
Okay.
Anyway,
Now
yeah,
you're mixing words with me that you know better than I do, and that's fair.
yeah,
But the point is, at the end, you're still agreeing it required two readings to be an ordinance.
yes,
And it required two readings because of the language in the city charter that requires two readings on the same ordinance.
yes,
Okay. And it never got two readings on the same ordinance. And you know I'm quoting the word same out of the charter. You probably know that.
yeah, yes,
It never got two readings on the same ordinance because clearly the reason was changed from the first reading to the second reading, and we've just agreed reasons matter.
but actually the caption changed, the ordinance did not.
Okay, well, the caption is what is being read to the city council that they're perceiving when they vote.
Yeah, and
correct?
and
Is
the
that a yes?
Well, the mayor normally reads the ordinance.
Okay. And well, you weren't there.
Yeah. But
You weren't there on April 23rd.
I believe I was.
I thought you told me earlier you were not.
I was not there on February 27th
Ah, okay. Thank you.
for the original second reading.
Okay.
I was not there. So I couldn't say how it was pulled off the agenda.
Okay, but anyway, obviously all you got to do is read the caption on the one and read the caption on the other, and they have a lot of different words in them. They're very much revised, updated, modified, changed, whatever word you want to use. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And well, that's fine. And again, I know you can't talk for what was in the mind of Peter Zanoni, so I'm going to ask this in the context of for yourself. You have told me that you would never have voted twice for an ordinance that you knew was relying upon a forged document. Fair enough?
Yes.
And do you know of anything that changed before April 23rd that somehow was evidence or information that the document had not been forged that was relied upon at the first reading?
No.
In other words, I just want to make sure that somebody, as far as you know, Peter Zanoni's not going to show up and say, oh yeah, I got this new information, I guess I didn't tell Heather, and now I had a reason to think it was legit and had not been altered. You never heard anything like that?
No.
Okay. Let's show you Exhibit 9. Should have stretched further for that for you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Made you reach a little further than I meant to.
Okay.
Have you seen this letter before?
I think so.
It refers to a meeting with city staff, Type B board chair, and 3 city council members. Do you see that?
Yes.
Were you at that meeting?
I believe so.
Who else on city staff do you believe was at that meeting?
I don't remember.
Type B board chair would have been Leah Olivari.
Exactly.
And do you know who the 3 city council members were?
I don't off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at the meeting invite to see who all was on it. I really don't remember.
Was the mayor there?
I don't remember.
Okay. Go ahead and read that same paragraph, that second paragraph that I'm looking about. And by the way, it's a letter that is dated April 11, 2024, right?
Yes.
And it's from the applicant, therefore signed by Philip Ramirez and Devin Bacta, right?
Yes.
And obviously, it is still dealing with this issue of the forged document, right? Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it talks about the meeting with city staff, Leah Olivari, and the 3 council members and it's a letter making sure there's no longer confusion, I'm kind of quoting there, surrounding the formal recommendation of the Type B board to the city council, and that said recommendation was expressly exclusive of any funding recommendation tied to the flood proofing of the project, right?
Yes.
So this letter is being emphatic that the second reading is going to be for funding that is exclusive of anything to do with flood proofing, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then it kind of says the same thing again in the next sentence. It says we would request written acknowledgement by the city that the Type B recommendation to council and the incentive are not tied to nor contain any requirements related to flood proofing improvements. You see that?
Yes.
So again, it's saying, hey, for the second reading, and really for Type B, we're now saying it's got, this $2 million has nothing to do with, I'm going to quote here, flood proofing improvements, right?
Yes.
And then the third sentence actually even says it again, more emphatically, quote, "It is our hope that this acknowledgement will allow for clarity in the city staff presentation and prevent any further confusion as to the true nature of what should be considered by the City Council in the second reading agenda item for final approval of the incentive request." Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And what they're talking about here is, hey, we want to be, really now that we've said it, I guess 3 times, we want to be triple sure that the second reading has nothing to do with the flood proofing.
Exactly.
Okay, which is the opposite of what the first reading had to do with.
Yes.
Okay, and so, but we're still obviously referring to the incentive request, which is, but we still want our $2 million, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what the applicant was saying is, hey, we know you're going to do a second reading, but we want to make triple sure that if you approve it the way we're rewriting it, that everybody's clear it's got nothing to do with changes in FEMA,
Yes.
which is what the first reading was all about.
In part, yes.
Okay. I mean, it's clearly an effort to distinguish the first reading and the reasons behind it, reasons matter, from the second reading and the reasons behind that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Again, highlighting that the 2 readings had significant differences.
Different description on the project.
Well,
not a difference in the
hey,
dollar amount or anything like that.
Well,
yeah.
no different than the dollar. We understand either way they want their money, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, they're running from the FEMA thing at this point with this letter, right?
I can't say that they're running from it, but they're trying to clarify. Yes.
They're distancing themselves from it clearly.
Yes. Yes.
From the altered federal, whatever we want to call it.
That's what you want to call it. Yes.
Okay. No, I'm through with that if you want to set it down.
Okay.
Somewhere in this same time frame, I also know that you had, and I want to get your recollection of it, there were some phone calls and some emails with you and Leah Olivari and Mike Culbertson about changing the narrative.
Yes.
And by that, and it's all over, we've talked
Yeah.
about it. I'm just going to
Yeah.
try to abbreviate it. Narrative
Okay.
1 was FEMA as the backbone.
Yes.
Narrative 2 was curbside appeal. What do you want to call it? Dining?
Development of the retail and the dining and stuff downstairs.
Retail,
yeah.
retail and dining space.
Yes, yes.
Okay? And so I know there was this conversation or email exchange or maybe both that was between you and Leah Olivari and Mike Culbertson to change from the FEMA narrative, recent FEMA changes, to the dining and curbside appeal.
Yeah.
And who initiated that effort? Did
I
your
think it was-
investigation, you said, oh, I have an epiphany, or did Leah call you, or who called
No,
who?
I think Leah initiated it because she was very concerned because the first reading, what was, the title in there did not reflect why they, the intention behind why they recommended the award.
Why she did. She can at least speak for herself.
Exactly.
Okay. And so she was very concerned that the reason that she voted had not been reflected in the first reading.
Yes.
And she called you and told you that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And
We
anything-
communicated. I'm not sure if it was through email I can't remember how it was, but yes, we discussed that, yes.
Okay. And she was concerned, I'm asking if this is part of the conversation because, hey, when you put up a thing that now everybody's saying is federal altered document, that's not the reason I voted for it.
That is correct.
Okay. And she let you know, hey, we need to get away from that. We need to change the narrative, basically.
Yeah, that the first reading did not properly reflect what the discussion was at the type B board.
And we don't want any more of that improper first reading. We need to start the narrative on a proper second reading.
We need to clarify in the second reading, yes.
Well, you said the word proper, okay?
Yeah.
And improper. That's why I'm using those words.
Okay.
And so At that time, do you think she'd already talked to Mike Culberson, or do you know based on your conversation?
I don't know. I couldn't speak to that.
What is your recollection about how, and let me ask you, did you talk to Leo Olivari more than once or just the one time about it?
I don't remember.
Okay. And what is your recollection about how Mike Culberson got into that conversation? And I'm not suggesting I know it was an oral discussion or an email, but somehow I know he got in that mix.
I don't remember. I know that I don't know. I don't know if it was Leah reached out to Mike or if I don't remember. I know that there was communications, but I'm not sure.
Was there ever a conversation where the three of you got on the phone?
I don't remember. I'm
Mike
sorry. I have so many conversations. I don't remember.
I know you said you read the deposition of Mike Culberson, not studied every word, but
Yeah.
he refers to an email back and forth.
Okay.
Did you see that in his deposition?
No, like I said, I just kind of scanned it. I didn't read all the way through it. Yes.
Okay, do you recall that there were emails back and forth between you and Mike?
Yes, I do. I know that. Yes.
On this same issue, that is changing from the FEMA false document narrative and jumping over to something more palatable, like a make prettier dining space and curb appeal or whatever the right public spaces,
Yes.
whatever the language is that you put in your memo.
Yes.
Okay. And so that email exchange, was it exactly about making that change in the narrative by the time you get to the second reading? Is that the purpose of the email exchange?
I think we were trying to clarify. I don't remember. I think we're trying to clarify what needed to come. Yeah, what needed to reflect.
You were trying to get what Leah, one of the people who voted at type B, she wanted a different narrative, and you were trying to give that to her. You were changing the narrative.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you gone back and looked for those emails at all?
I think we looked. I think I looked at it. Yeah.
It's okay.
That's why I remembered that I had corresponded with Mike. But
People prepare for depositions by doing things like that.
Yeah.
It's no secret the emails exist. Mike
Yeah.
Culberson talked about it. It was not a hard guess on my part that
Sure.
you went back and looked at it. Okay? Okay. I'm not. Do you have those available today?
No.
I don't have them
No.
ready.
Okay. When did you last look at them?
I looked at them yesterday.
Okay. And how was there? One email, 5 emails?
I think it was all kind of the same string. I want to say there was 2 or 3 emails back and forth.
Okay. Some people might, I'm talking to your lawyer now, some people might argue that since, well, I'll go ahead and do this. Did you do that as part of your preparation for this deposition?
Yes.
Okay. Some people might argue that if she did it in preparation for a deposition, that you should give it to me now. I'm going to let you think about that, so that I don't have to redepose her later on that one. It's small issue. Okay. I know it's going to be on the email. Do you remember the date of the email exchange?
I do not.
Do you think that the email exchange was in the same time frame as the phone conversations between you and Leah Olivari?
It most likely was, yeah. It
Okay.
probably followed that.
Yeah. Do you know, for example, if that was before or after you wrote it would have to be before you wrote your second memo,
Yes.
because the second memo does what y'all talked about.
Yes.
Okay. And what else did you do in preparation? Let me back up. I understand you looked at this email string in preparation for your deposition. What
Yes.
other things did you do to prepare for your deposition?
I talked with our former floodplain manager to refresh my memory on the time frame on when the plans were reviewed with.
When the what?
The plans. So the plans for the hotel were reviewed with development services, and at what point the recommendations for the changes that needed to happen to conform with what was needed also looked at the timeline on when the permits were issued.
And I'm guessing you did the latter in order to identify sort of some space in the discussion about when the project commenced?
Yes, because I understand, I believe that there was some question on whether or not construction started prior to the application or whatever, and so I wanted to refresh my memory on that. Yes.
And that goes back to that being a rule that the Type B board is supposed to follow?
Yeah, their policy is that the application has to be submitted prior to moving forward. It does not say that it has to have an approved project. It's just that the application has to be submitted.
When actually what it says, if I'm quoting it on page 10, is no business incentives if construction or program has commenced.
I think that's the revised policy. We have
Okay.
changed the policy since then to clarify this.
Okay.
Because there was an inconsistency between what the Type B policy was and what we utilize for our tax increment financing zones.
Right.
And so at the time the application was submitted, the policy only stated that the application had to be received. It didn't say that it had to have an approved, it didn't have to be approved.
Okay, and without mixing words, let's
Sure.
talk about the spirit behind it for a minute.
Sure.
The spirit behind it is that Type B money is supposed to be incentive money to bring a project here? Or a modification of an existing project?
It is for, yes, for economic development, yes.
Right. It is for the purpose of giving an incentive for economic development.
Exactly.
I think that's a good word.
Yes.
And if, for example, it's already again, I'm going to try to use words maybe not in the statute so we
Sure.
can get away from splitting hairs and the spirit of how it's supposed to work. You understand what I'm doing?
Yes.
And so if a project is already committed and going to be done, it's not supposed to get incentive money.
Yes.
Okay. And do you know, for example, the date that Devin Bacta and or Philip Ramirez committed with the franchise agreement to do this project?
No.
Do you know, for example, how far in advance of even coming to the city they signed on the dotted line and would have monetary penalties if they did not complete the project?
No.
Do you know, for example, if they were legally obligated by contract months ahead of their application to the REDC to do the project?
No.
Okay. All you're looking at a limited set of data, for example, permits and the things that are within your ability to go look at to have this discussion about when it commenced or when it started or when it's committed.
Yes.
Okay. But you recognize that there are documents out there related to the project that probably create a timelines and commitments that are really not within your ability to review because they're not your documents.
Exactly.
Okay. So in terms of whether or not this was a committed project in advance of when the application was filed, you don't know,
No.
correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You pointed out a few different times that the slide that we've talked so much about was a screenshot of a United States federal FEMA portal.
Yes.
Okay. And you recognize, though, that taking a screenshot, is a form of recording information?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
a softball.
Yeah.
It's not getting tricky yet. It'll get tricky in a minute, okay? I'll let you know when to get skeptical, okay?
Okay. I'm sure you will.
And so for purposes of what I am looking at right now, if it says a writing includes a printing or any other method of recording information, then the screenshot would fall in that definition of a writing.
Yes.
Okay. And removing information from that writing, specifically removing the release date, and at another location removing the release date, and at another location removing the reference date, that would be a form of altering that writing, correct?
Yes.
But leaving the FEMA logo on it certainly makes it appear as though it is a authentic screenshot of a FEMA writing.
Yes.
In other words, when you just look at it, you think, hey, that's FEMA, this is what I'm looking at is FEMA, right?
Yes.
Did anything in your investigation in any way, shape, or form suggest that FEMA had approved altering their document by removing the release date and by removing the reference number?
No.
And you understand it was someone other than FEMA who altered the document, right?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And that someone else, whether it was Philip or staff or whoever, did so in such a way that it gave it the look that another, i.e. FEMA, had published the document in the way they showed it to you, the city council.
Yes.
Yeah. The way it was presented, in other words, to the Type B board and at the first reading to the city council, this altered writing made it appear as though it was a screenshot of the original, right?
Yes.
Even though there is no such original, because the original actually has the other information that they removed.
Yes.
So if I give you this definition that forge, like forging a document or a writing, that forge means to alter, make, complete, execute, or authenticate any writing. That happened, right, so far?
Yes.
So that it purports to be the act of another, like FEMA. That happened, correct?
Yes.
In this case.
Yes.
Who did not authorize it, and we talked about FEMA didn't authorize it, right?
Yes.
That happened in this case.
Yes.
If that's a definition of forge, then the facts of this case meet that definition.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to give you another definition of forge. That forge means to be a copy, to say, hey, this is a copy of an original, when in fact no such original, like we see in the slide, exists. Do you understand?
Say that again?
Yeah, if I purport to, hey, this is what it looks like, and no such original exists that looks like that,
Yes.
then that's a forgery according to what I just read, I think, but I want to say it to you again. You understand where I'm going?
Yes.
I'm giving you a second definition of forge. Forge means to be a copy of an original when no such original existed. Do you understand the definition?
Yes.
And we have that in this case.
Yes.
Okay. Those are two different definitions, and both of which you have agreed those facts are in this case to meet that definition of forge.
Yes.
Okay. Alternatively, I want to give you another definition of forge. That would be to utter a writing, in other words, to say the words.
Okay.
And I'll read you the whole thing. Forge is also to issue, transfer, register the transfer of, pass, publish, or otherwise utter a writing that was forged within the meaning of the things we've agreed or you've now agreed were forged within the definition.
Okay.
And in fact, making the presentation and representing thereby that this forged document was authentic, the utterance of it becomes forgery. Do you understand?
Yes.
And that happened in this case, right?
Yes. Yes.
It is also alternatively a separate definition of forgery or forge if you possess a writing. You know, we've defined writing earlier.
Yes.
That is forged within the meaning of the first two definitions with an intent to utter it in a manner that's within the preceding definitions I just gave you. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
That happened in this case too, right?
Yes.
That's all subsection A of what I'm looking at, and subsection B, then you're going to figure out what I'm reading from in a hurry here. I'll just tell you. It's Texas Penal Code 32.21.
Okay.
And I know from your background, it's not just that I'm interested, I wanted to know your background in terms of looking at things, and this is the sort of thing your background has led you to be educated about.
Yes.
Okay? Because when you're doing compliance auditing, when you're working at Arthur Anderson, when you're working with the city of Corpus, of course, but also the city of San Marcos, you're supposed to make sure you keep things, it's your job and the jobs you've had to keep things in compliance with the law.
Yes.
And so you probably even knew at the very beginning I was reading from a statute. Did you? Probably?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or a very sophisticated dictionary, one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah. And that it is, according to this Texas Penal Code statute 32.21, subsection B, a person commits an offense. You're used to seeing that language and interpreting it, right? Is that a yes?
Yes.
A person commits an offense if he forges a writing with intent to defraud or harm another. Do you understand what I read to you?
Yes.
We've already talked about this being a fraud, right?
Yes.
And next section talks about are you familiar that in Texas statutes that the degree of the offense sometimes has to do with how much money's involved? In other words, if I go steal a candy bar, it's a worse offense if I go steal an automobile?
Yes.
Okay. You understand with that in Texas law? You've probably seen that many times.
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm going to skip down to, I think it's E1. It says if it's shown at the trial, basically, that an actor engaged in the conduct to obtain or attempt to obtain a property or service, an offense under this section is, I'm going to skip down to subpart 7, a felony of the first degree if the value of the property or service is $300,000 or more. Do you understand what I just read you?
Yes.
And we can agree that $2 million is more than $300,000.
Yes.
Okay. And I know, look, you don't get to be judge and jury. I'm going to relieve you of that responsibility.
Yes.
Okay? And you're not here to do that. Fair enough?
Yes.
But do you know, as you sit here, given your background, of a reason, and I'm going to grant you, you don't know what's the intent of whoever exactly altered it. Fair enough?
Fair.
And it rarely happens that somebody comes to the courthouse who's accused of a crime and says, I intended to do it. Fair enough?
Yes.
But understanding that, do you know of any factual reason that came up in your investigation that would preclude the application of this penal statute?
Factual. Say that again.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you permission to not try and be in the mind of the people who actually altered
Okay.
it, because I'm not asking you to do that.
Okay.
That would be unfair, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, true?
Yes.
Okay. But in the course of your investigation, did you find any fact that you can tell me now that would preclude application of this penal statute?
No.
Okay. Can we take a break?
Sure.
Time is 1:48 p.m. We're off the video record. Time is 1:54 p.m. We're back on the video record.
Hey, and just on the record, I'm going to go ahead and pass the witness subject to a right of recall, in my opinion, not trying to argue it now, so that when we get production of the emails, if there were something in it I needed to ask you, I might come back. I don't anticipate that, and I don't mind saying it on the record. With that, we pass the witness.
We'll reserve.
Okay.
Before we go off the video record, are you need a video copy or?
Not at the moment. I'll let you know. if that
Okay.
changes.
And the witness be reading and signing?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Time is 1:55 p.m. We're off the video record.